Am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's secret second family at her wedding and ruining her big day? This has caused an absolute firestorm in my family, and I'm still in shock over what happened. I'm 28F, not the type to cause scenes or drama. In fact, I usually avoid conflict at all costs. But what happened at my sister's wedding has left me being called everything from vindictive to psychotic to jealous, even though I honestly thought I was doing the right thing. Maybe I was wrong. You tell me, let's rewind. My older sister Amanda, 32F, has always been the golden child. She was the first to go to college, the first to get a high-paying job, and the first to settle down and get engaged. Our parents adore her. Growing up, she could do no wrong. I don't say that bitterly, just truthfully. I love her, but I've always lived in her shadow. Every accomplishment I had was followed by a, well, Amanda did that too, but better. I've accepted it mostly. Amanda met her fiancé, Eric, 34M, about 3 years ago. He's a genuinely good guy, quiet, respectful, generous, a little nerdy, not the kind of guy Amanda usually dated. She always went for high-powered, flashy guys, so we were all surprised when she settled with someone so down-to-earth. But Eric worshipped her, and honestly, I thought maybe she'd just finally found someone who loved her more than he loved himself. They got engaged last year and set the wedding for this past spring. Big, extravagant event. Cathedral, 6-figure, reception, the works. Amanda spared no expense, and our parents helped fund a huge chunk of it. She had 10 bridesmaids, a designer dress, a band flown in from out of state. It was going to be the event of the season, in her words, and then, about 3 months before the wedding, I found something that changed everything. I was at a friend's birthday party downtown. It was a casual rooftop thing, and people brought friends of friends. I ended up chatting with a woman named Rachel, 30s, who mentioned she was raising 2 kids on her own after her partner basically ghosted her. We talked about relationships, and somehow Amanda's wedding came up. Rachel asked to see photos, and when I showed her Amanda and Eric, her face dropped. She said, "Wait, that's Eric?" Turns out, Rachel had been dating Eric, on and off, for almost 4 years. They met on a dating app. He claimed he traveled a lot for work, so he wasn't always around, but he was there enough. He even met her kids. He had a key to her apartment. Rachel pulled out texts, photos, voice notes, even videos. I nearly threw up. She had no idea he was engaged. I told her about Amanda, about the wedding. Rachel was in tears. She had no idea he was living a double life. And the worst part? She wasn't even the only one. She told me about another woman she'd seen tagged with him on social media a year prior. But when she asked, he said it was his cousin. I left the party shaken. I didn't sleep that night. I called Amanda the next morning and tried to talk to her gently. I said, "Hey, do you know anything about a woman named Rachel who's been seeing Eric?" She laughed and said, "Oh, is that the crazy ex he warned me about? She stalked him for a bit, I think. Why?" My stomach sank. I didn't want to hurt her. But I also didn't want her to marry a man who was cheating and lying to multiple women, including one with kids. So I made a choice. I invited Rachel to the wedding. I didn't tell Amanda. I didn't tell anyone. I bought Rachel a dress. She didn't want to make a scene, but I told her she didn't have to. She just had to be there, to be real. The wedding began as expected. Gorgeous venue, tearful vows, big smiles. But during the reception, when they were doing the speeches, I stood up. I asked for the mic. Amanda smiled and rolled her eyes like, "Here comes the emotional little sister." The band stopped. Everyone looked at me, and I said, "Before we toast to the bride and groom, I'd like to propose a toast to honesty, transparency, and not living a double life." The room got very quiet. Then I said, "Rachel, would you mind standing up?" Rachel did. Amanda looked confused. Eric went pale, and I said, "That's Rachel. She's been dating Eric for 4 years. He has a key to her apartment. He's met her kids. She had no idea he was marrying my sister." "Chaos," Amanda screamed. Eric tried to say it was a lie. Rachel pulled out her phone, showed photos of him at her apartment, with her kids, in bed. Amanda collapsed. Literally, her friends had to carry her out. The wedding was over. Guests started leaving. My parents stared at me like I'd just burned the house down. Eric tried to corner me, saying I'd ruined his life. I told him he'd done that himself. Now, weeks later, Amanda still isn't talking to me. My mum called me a monster for humiliating her in public. My dad says I should have told Amanda privately. Again, I tried, but she blew me off. Half, my family says I saved her from a disaster. The other half says I'm jealous of Amanda's success and wanted to sabotage her moment. I don't know what to think anymore. Was I the a-hole for exposing everything at her wedding? Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she ruined our family after she exposed my husband's secret, I-34F? Don't even know where to begin. Everything in my life imploded about 3 weeks ago, and I've been in survival mode since. I'm writing this because I need an outside perspective, even if it hurts. Maybe I am the villain in this, but I can't see straight anymore. So here's the setup. I'm married to Jason, 36M, and we've been together for 12 years, married for 9. We have 2 kids, a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. My younger sister, Ellie, 30F, has always been close to me. We're 4 years apart, but grew up more like best friends than siblings. She's been my rock through a lot. My miscarriages, my postpartum depression, our dad's death 2 years ago. Ellie's a bit of a free spirit. She's single, no kids, works remotely as a graphic designer, and lives in the city about an hour away. She visits often, helps with the kids, and they adore her. Jason and Ellie have always gotten along well, too. Maybe too well, I never thought anything of it. I trusted both of them. Trusted is the key word here. 3 weeks ago, we had Ellie over for dinner on a Friday night. It was like any other night. Jason grilled. The kids played in the yard. Ellie brought a bottle of wine and a new board game. After dinner, the kids went to bed and we all sat around talking. Then I went to take a shower while Jason and Ellie cleaned up. When I came back downstairs, the atmosphere felt weird, tense. Jason was sitting on the couch staring at his phone, and Ellie was in the kitchen pretending to be very focused on organizing the snack cabinet. I asked what was going on. Jason mumbled something about work emails and left to take a call. Ellie just said nothing and looked everywhere but at me. I didn't press it. Maybe I should have. The next morning, Ellie called me early and asked if I could come to her apartment alone. I thought maybe she needed help with something, but when I got there, she was sitting at her kitchen table with a folder in front of her, looking like she hadn't slept all night. She told me she needed to tell me something and that I deserved to know. And then she dropped the bomb. Jason had been cheating on me, not just once, not just with one person, for years. According to Ellie, she found an old phone of his in our junk drawer while cleaning up. Apparently he used it for secret stuff, and curiosity got the best of her. She guessed the passcode, my birthday of all things, and what she found disgusted her. Texts. Emails, photos, videos, dating app accounts, conversations with women and some men going back nearly 6 years. He had multiple relationships, some local, some long distance, some that overlapped with my pregnancies. He even flew one woman out to a work conference under the guise of client networking. She showed me the folder. She had printed screenshots. There were hundreds. I felt like I was floating outside my body, like I had just died and was watching my life fall apart from above. I screamed. I sobbed. I punched her table. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. I asked her why she had all this, why she had dug for it, why she had inserted herself into my marriage, why she hadn't come to me sooner if she knew, and she said something I can't get out of my head. Because I saw how happy you were, and I didn't want to be the one to shatter that. But after last night, I couldn't keep quiet anymore. Apparently the night before, Jason had been dismissive and cold toward her while I was in the shower. She said he snapped at her for asking a question about his grill, then muttered something like, "You don't know anything, you don't know me." She got suspicious. She looked for answers. I left her apartment in a daze. I drove around for hours. Then I went home and confronted Jason. At first he denied everything, called Ellie crazy and jealous, said she was obsessed with him. Then, when I showed him the folder, he crumbled, cried, begged, said it meant nothing. Claimed it was a sickness, swore he loved me, said he'd get help. I screamed at him, called him every name I could think of. He just kept begging. Eventually, I told him to leave. He went to his brother's place. He's still there, now. Here's where the am I the a-hole part comes in. I haven't spoken to Ellie since that day. I can't look at her. I know Jason's the one who cheated. I know he's the root of this devastation. But I can't help feeling like Ellie violated something sacred. She went looking for dirt. She crossed a line. She inserted herself into my marriage. She dug up something that wasn't hers to dig. Yes, she told me the truth, but at what cost? I've been spiraling. My kids are confused. My life is in ruins. Every day feels like walking through quicksand. Last week, she texted me asking to talk. I didn't respond. She tried calling. I declined. Then she showed up at my door. I didn't let her in. I told her through the door, "You ruined my life. You ruined our family. I can't forgive you." She left in tears. My mom called me the next day and said Ellie was devastated, that she never meant to hurt me, that she did what she thought was right, that I'm misplacing my pain. I hung up on my mom. Now everyone in the family is taking sides. Some say Ellie saved me from a lifetime of lies. Others say she should have kept her nose out of my marriage. My aunt told me I should be thanking Ellie for opening my eyes. I wanted to scream. I feel alone, angry, betrayed by both of them. So, am I the a-hole for blaming my sister for this? For cutting her out? For saying she ruined our family, even if she meant well? Didn't she still make a choice that destroyed everything? Am I the a-hole for refusing to forgive my brother for a lie that destroyed my engagement, even after he confessed years later? I, 29F, have been estranged from my brother Alex, 31M, for 6 years. Our family is now pressuring me to be the bigger person and forgive him, but the truth is I don't know if I can, or if I should. This all started 7 years ago. Back then I was engaged to a man named Ryan. We had met in college, dated for 4 years, and he proposed to me the summer after I graduated. Ryan was everything I had ever hoped for. Smart, kind, attentive, funny, and deeply supportive. We had our share of ups and downs like any couple, but we worked through things. We were planning our wedding for the following spring, and I was genuinely happy. I believed in us. I believed in him. Alex had always been skeptical of Ryan. He never gave me a clear reason why. At first, I thought it was just brotherly protectiveness, but over time it felt like something more. He would make passive-aggressive comments about Ryan's job, he worked at a non-profit, or about how fast we moved in together. Sometimes, Alex would say things like, "I just hope you're thinking with your brain and not just your heart." When I asked him what his problem was, he'd backtrack or say, "Nothing, forget it. I just worry about you." Fast forward to a month, before our wedding. I woke up one morning to dozens of missed calls and texts from friends and family. My phone was blowing up. At first I thought someone had died. What I saw made my blood run cold. An anonymous email had been sent to many of my wedding guests, family members, and co-workers. The subject line was, "The truth about Ryan." Inside the email was a series of screenshots, texts, photos, and even a voicemail, allegedly showing Ryan cheating on me with a woman named Leah. The screenshots were damning. One showed Ryan shirtless in bed with a date timestamp from 2 weeks prior. Another was a string of flirtatious messages. The voicemail was of a man's voice, similar to Ryan's, saying, "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." My entire world caved in. I confronted Ryan immediately. He was shocked. He denied everything, swore the images were fake, the texts manipulated, the voicemail not his. He pleaded with me to believe him. He said he didn't know any Leah, that someone must be trying to ruin us. But how could I believe him when the evidence seemed so overwhelming? I called off the wedding. Ryan tried for weeks to talk to me. He offered to take a polygraph test. He went to the woman in the photos, who we eventually tracked down. It turned out she worked at a bar he used to frequent, and she said she didn't know him and had no idea how her photo got into the email. But I was too broken, too humiliated. I didn't believe him. I told him to leave me alone, and eventually he did. He moved away a few months later. I haven't seen him since. Now here's where it gets worse. 2 months ago, my brother Alex called me out of the blue. We hadn't spoken in years. He said he needed to come clean, and that's when he admitted it. He was the one who sent the email. He faked the screenshots. He edited the texts. He found a guy online who did voice work and paid him to record the voicemail to sound like Ryan. He even hired a woman through a Craigslist gig to pose for the shirtless photo. She never even met Ryan, but the picture was edited to make it look real. He orchestrated the entire thing. Why? Because he didn't trust Ryan. He thought Ryan was too slick, too charming, and that guys like him always end up cheating eventually. He said he was protecting me from future heartbreak, and that even if Ryan hadn't cheated yet, he would have eventually. He swears he didn't expect me to cancel the wedding. He thought I'd confront Ryan, they'd break up, and I'd move on. He didn't expect me to be destroyed. I went silent as he confessed, numb. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just told him to never contact me again. Then I blocked his number. Since then, my family has found out. My parents are horrified, but they keep saying things like, he was young and stupid, and he made a mistake, but at least he's owning up to it. They want me to forgive and move on. My aunt even told me, at least you didn't marry Ryan. Imagine if you found out later he was a cheater. But here's the thing. Ryan wasn't a cheater. Alex was wrong. He destroyed something real. Something beautiful. I loved Ryan. We could have had a life together, a family. I might have been married by now. Maybe I'd have kids. Instead, I spent years thinking I wasn't enough, that I was blind, that I couldn't trust my own judgment. I spiraled into anxiety and depression. I haven't seriously dated anyone since. I don't trust people. All because of a lie my brother told just in case. Now Alex is trying to crawl back into my life. He sent me a long email saying he's in therapy, that he regrets everything, and that he wants to rebuild our relationship. He even said, I know I ruined your wedding, but I didn't want you to have a ruined marriage. I've told my family I want nothing to do with him. But now they're calling me heartless. My mom cries on the phone and says, you're tearing the family apart. My dad says I should at least talk to him for closure. They've even suggested I go to therapy with Alex to move forward together. But I don't want to move forward with him. I want to forget he ever existed. I don't know what's worse, the fact that he lied or that he thought it was justified. That even now he's trying to position it as some sort of misguided heroism. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to forgive my brother, even though he confessed and says he regrets it? Or am I justified in cutting him out forever? Am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's secret affair at my wedding? This whole situation has torn my family apart, and I'm not sure if I was wrong to do what I did. But I honestly feel like I had no other choice. I, 28F, got married to my husband, Jason, 30M, a few weeks ago. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, and for the most part it was. Jason and I had been together for over 5 years, and we had worked so hard to make our wedding day perfect. We were surrounded by friends and family. Everyone was in high spirits, and everything went off without a hitch, except for one huge thing that I didn't see coming. Let me give you some background first. My sister, Rachel, 32F, and I have never had the best relationship. She's always been a little perfect in the eyes of our parents. Smart, well put together, the one who always has everything in order. She's also always had a way of getting what she wants and manipulating people to do things for her. I've always felt like I lived in her shadow, and even though she's my sister, we've never been close. For years, I've known Rachel was hiding something. She's been married to her husband, Tom, 34ME, for about 6 years. They have 2 kids, and from the outside, everything seems fine. But I've always felt like Rachel wasn't being entirely honest about her marriage. There were rumors, whispers, behind her back, and little things she'd say that didn't add up. But I didn't have concrete proof, so I kept my distance and focused on my own life. Fast forward to my wedding day. I had my bridesmaids with me, including Rachel, of course. Everything was going well until the reception. We were dancing, laughing, and having a great time when something really weird happened. I noticed Rachel and one of the groomsmen, Eric, 28M, spending a lot of time together. They were talking in hushed tones, sneaking away from the dance floor, and exchanging glances that felt way too intimate for just friends. At first I didn't think much of it, but then, as the night went on, things started to get more suspicious. I caught them disappearing into a corner together multiple times. I saw Rachel pull out her phone and text someone. Eric was standing close by, looking over her shoulder. It seemed harmless at first, but it made me uncomfortable. I know it sounds paranoid, but something about it didn't sit right with me. Then it happened. During one of the toasts, my uncle, who has always had a big mouth and tends to drink a bit too much, started telling a story about how he used to know Rachel's husband, Tom, and had run into him the other day. He was talking about how he had seen him with a woman who wasn't Rachel, and how he had noticed them looking very comfortable together. The whole room went silent, and Rachel's face immediately turned red. I didn't think much of it at first. I mean, my uncle tends to be a bit of an oddball, and I figured he was just rambling. But that's when Rachel started to panic. She excused herself from the table and went to the bathroom. It was strange, but I didn't think much of it until a few minutes later, when I saw her and Eric whispering in the corner of the room again. At that point, I'd had enough. I walked over to them and confronted Rachel in front of everyone. I said, "What's going on between you two? Why are you acting so weird? Is there something you're not telling me?" Rachel tried to brush it off, saying I was overreacting and that I was just being paranoid, but I wasn't convinced. I pushed harder, and that's when Rachel snapped. She looked around the room, and in a moment of sheer panic, she blurted out, "Okay, fine. I'm having an affair with Eric. I've been sleeping with him for the past year, and it's been going on since before the wedding." The entire room froze. My jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. My own sister, the one who always preached about how important family was, had been having an affair with my wedding guest, someone I trusted and had spent months preparing this day with. Eric didn't deny it. He stood there, red-faced, looking like a deer caught in headlights. The guests at the wedding were all staring at them, and the shock was palpable. I was in complete disbelief. I felt like my world was collapsing. I turned to look at Jason, and his face was pale. He had no idea what was going on, but I could tell he was as stunned as I was. Rachel, still in the middle of the room, tried to defend herself, saying that she didn't mean to hurt anyone, that it was complicated, and that she was so sorry for all of this. I couldn't keep it in anymore. I was so furious that I shouted, "You ruined my wedding day, Rachel. You completely betrayed me, not just with your affair, but with your lies. And to do it right in front of me, on my wedding day. You have no shame." The room erupted into chaos. Some people were in shock, others were angry. My parents were silent, looking horrified. Rachel tried to leave, but I told her she wasn't going anywhere. I said, "You're staying right here, and you're going to tell everyone the truth." I demanded she explain everything in front of the guests. She broke down, sobbing, and admitted that she had been seeing Eric for over a year. She and Tom had been growing apart, and she claimed she was trying to find herself by getting attention from someone else. She said it wasn't meant to go this far, but the affair had spiraled out of control. She told everyone that she was going to end things with Eric and try to fix her marriage, but it was clear that she had no idea what was happening anymore. I don't know what came over me in that moment, but I couldn't stay calm. I told Rachel I wanted nothing to do with her anymore. I kicked her out of my wedding, and I asked Eric to leave too. The rest of the evening was a blur. Jason tried to comfort me, but I could see the betrayal in his eyes as well. Everyone was talking about it, and it felt like my entire world had been turned upside down. My family is in turmoil now. Rachel has tried to reach out to apologize, but I haven't responded. Our parents are furious with me for exposing her affair at my wedding, saying I should have handled it in private. They say I humiliated her and that I shouldn't have ruined my own wedding day to call her out in front of everyone. But at the same time, I can't forgive her. How could she do this to me? How could she do this to her own marriage and then lie about it for so long? Now I'm wondering if I took it too far. Am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's affair at my wedding? Should I have handled it more privately, or did she deserve to be exposed in front of everyone? Am I the a-hole for revealing my sister's affair at her baby shower? This has caused an absolute uproar in my family, and I'm still not sure if I was wrong for doing it or if I did the right thing. I'm not proud of how I handled it, but I honestly felt like I was backed into a corner and had no other choice. Here's the story. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F. We've always had a decent relationship, though we've never been super close. She's always been the golden child in our family, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I'm the older one, the one who tends to speak my mind and sometimes comes off as a little abrasive. That's fine. I'm used to being the less liked sibling, but lately Emily's behavior has started to rub me the wrong way, and I've had enough of it. It all started a few months ago when Emily announced she was pregnant. It wasn't a total surprise. She and her husband, Mike, 30M, had been trying for a while, and everyone was thrilled. But then things started to feel off. Emily started acting strangely secretive. She'd hide her phone when I came over, and she started cancelling plans with me for random reasons. I didn't think much of it at first, but then one night, I went to pick up a few things from her house. She wasn't home, but Mike was, and he was acting a little odd too, like nervous or uncomfortable. I didn't think much of it, but I saw a text notification pop up on his phone from someone named Caitlin. I didn't snoop, but the name caught my eye. I'd never heard of Caitlin before, and the tone of the text was definitely flirtatious. It was along the lines of, "I can't wait to see you tonight, I've missed you." My heart sank. My first thought was that it could be nothing, but my gut told me something was off. I confronted Mike about it the next time I saw him, and he brushed it off, saying it was a work colleague trying to lighten his day. I let it go, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Fast forward to a month later. Emily's baby shower was coming up, and the whole family was gathering. Everyone was excited, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. It was supposed to be a happy occasion, but my mind kept going back to Mike and the text. I started noticing more signs. Emily's sudden late-night phone calls, her reluctance to let me near her phone, the fact that she was spending more time working than actually enjoying the pregnancy. It wasn't adding up. A few days before the shower, I received a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was a photo of Emily and Mike, clearly taken in a hotel room, sharing an intimate kiss. The text underneath said, "You won't believe." But I caught them together. They're both cheating on each other. My first thought was to ignore it, but I couldn't. I had to know more. I reached out to the person who sent me the photo. They didn't respond, but I could tell by the message that they were connected to Mike's other woman, Caitlin. The day of the baby shower came, and I was a bundle of nerves. The party was lovely at first. Everyone was congratulating Emily, gushing over baby clothes, eating cake and drinking mimosas. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. And as the shower continued, I started losing my patience. Every time Emily and Mike were in the same room, they'd exchange these uncomfortable fake smiles. I could tell they were both hiding something. That's when I made the decision. I stood up in front of everyone and called for attention. I know it was an awful thing to do, but I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I said, "I'm so happy for you." "Emily, really I am. But I think we all deserve to know the truth about what's been going on in your marriage. You've been hiding something from all of us, and it's time to come clean." I paused to let the shock settle over the room. Emily's face turned pale. She started to protest, but I wasn't finished. I pulled out the photo I had received and held it up. "Is this you and Mike in a hotel room? Because it looks like you've both been playing games behind everyone's back. And that's not even the worst part. Mike's been with another woman. Caitlin and I have proof." The room went silent. Emily looked like she was about to faint. Mike's face went red and he tried to pull me aside, but I pushed him away. "You both lied to everyone. Lied to our family, to your friends, and especially to me. I don't know why you thought you could keep it hidden, but you were wrong." The fallout was immediate and brutal. Emily started crying and begging me to stop, but I couldn't. It was like everything I'd been holding in for months just came rushing out. Mike tried to leave, but my dad stopped him. He was furious at both of them. My mum was in shock. Aunts and cousins were whispering and exchanging horrified glances. The rest of the baby shower was a mess. People started leaving early. Emily tried to explain, but no one was listening. She and Mike eventually left the event in tears. My parents were livid with me, saying I humiliated the family and ruined what should have been a joyful day. My dad even called me selfish and heartless for bringing up their issues in front of everyone. He said I should have waited for a private moment and that I didn't have the right to destroy her life like that. The next few days were tense. Emily hasn't spoken to me at all. Mike texted me angrily, calling me a disloyal bitch and saying I ruined everything. He also said that I was just jealous because he and Emily were having a baby and I wasn't. I couldn't believe it. Emily and Mike have both blocked me on everything. The family is divided now. Some say I did the right thing, that Emily deserved to know the truth before the baby was born. Others are calling me a villain, accusing me of airing dirty laundry in public. Now I'm left wondering, am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's affair at her baby shower? Should I have kept quiet and let her figure it out on her own? Or did I do the right thing in the heat of the moment? Am I the a-hole for exposing my dad's second family at my sister's wedding? I, 27F, did something that's torn my family in two, and I'm not sure if I regret it or not. The emotional wreckage is everywhere, and part of me feels like I should have kept my mouth shut. But another part of me, probably the louder one, thinks maybe it was time the truth came out, even if it destroyed everything. Let me backtrack. My sister Lily, 29F, got married last month in what was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. Huge wedding, big venue, hundreds of guests. She married her college sweetheart, a great guy, and I was her maid of honor. The months leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of planning, dresses, family drama, and lots of champagne-fueled Zoom calls. All typical stuff, but there was something festering underneath the surface, something I'd been holding in for almost a year. You see, about 11 months ago, I found out something that changed the way I looked at my dad forever. I was at a coffee shop on my lunch break when I saw him, my dad, sitting at a table across the room with a woman I didn't recognize. At first I thought maybe it was a business meeting, but then 2 kids ran up to them. The little girl looked exactly like me when I was younger, down to the same curly hair and gap in her teeth. And when I watched my dad pick her up and kiss her on the forehead, my stomach dropped. I waited until they left, followed them. I know, it sounds unhinged, and saw them get into a car together. The woman was driving. My dad was sitting in the front like it was normal. I took a photo of the license plate. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I did some digging. I work in tech, so it wasn't hard to find out who the woman was. She wasn't a stranger. Her name was Evelyn, and she'd worked in my dad's company for over a decade. Their social media was sparse, but there were enough breadcrumbs to put things together. They lived together in a house 2 towns over. They had 2 kids, a boy 7 and a girl 4. I was stunned. My dad had a whole-ass second family. I spiraled for weeks. I confronted him eventually, and he didn't even deny it. He just looked tired and said, "It's complicated." Complicated? You've been married to my mom for over 30 years, and you have 2 secret kids with another woman? He said he loved both families, that it just happened, that he never meant to hurt anyone. He begged me not to tell Lily or our mom. I was disgusted. I threatened to tell them. He cried. My dad cried, said he'd handle it, but needed time. Months passed. Nothing happened. So here we are, fast forward to Lily's wedding. Everything looked perfect. Guests laughing, the ceremony stunning, our mom beaming. My dad gave a toast about love, loyalty, and building a life together. I felt bile rise in my throat. Then I saw them. Evelyn, the other woman, she was there. At the wedding. Standing at the back with sunglasses and a shawl like she was trying to blend in. And with her, the 2 kids, his other kids. I snapped. I walked up to the mic during the speeches. I was supposed to give a heartfelt toast about Lily and her husband. Instead, I said this: I'd like to raise a glass to Lily and Mark and to honesty in marriage, because when you make a commitment to someone, it should mean something. It shouldn't mean keeping a second family in secret for a decade. It shouldn't mean lying to your wife and children, and it sure as hell shouldn't mean bringing your mistress and secret kids to your daughter's wedding like you're proud of it. Gasps. Silence. Then chaos. My dad tried to grab the mic. I held it away from him and said, "This man has been living a double life, and I'm done pretending." I don't know, my mom fainted. No exaggeration, she collapsed. Guests swarmed. Evelyn grabbed her kids and left. My sister stood frozen in place, mouth open, looking at our father like she'd never seen him before. I dropped the mic, not figuratively, literally, which made a horrible sound over the speakers, and walked out. The aftermath. Nuclear. My mom is now living with me. She filed for divorce the next week. Lily didn't go on her honeymoon. She said she couldn't celebrate with all this happening. My dad is furious and says I ruined the most important day of his daughter's life. Relatives are torn. Some say I was brave, others say I was cruel and should have waited. I don't know. Maybe I could have handled it differently. Maybe I should have waited until after the wedding. But I just couldn't stand there watching him play the perfect father while his mistress was in the damn audience. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's fiancé about his secret vasectomy the night before their wedding? This exploded in a way I didn't expect, and now my entire family is divided. My brother might never speak to me again, and I don't know if I did the right thing or if I overstepped in a massive way. I'm 29F writing this with a pounding heart, because I'm still trying to figure out if I destroyed someone's future or saved them from a life of deception. My brother Adam, 32M, is charming, successful, and extremely manipulative when he wants to be. He's always had this way of spinning things so that people believe what he wants them to believe, even when the truth is right in front of them. We weren't especially close growing up. He was always the golden boy, the one our parents doted on. I was the moody one, the overly sensitive child, but we maintained a decent sibling relationship, at least on the surface. Adam has been with his fiancée Claire, 31F, for about 5 years. Claire is the kind of person everyone falls in love with instantly. Sweet, smart, a bit shy, but deeply kind and absolutely devoted to my brother. She treats everyone in our family with respect, always remembers birthdays, and has been the one planning every family gathering for the past 2 years. She's honestly too good for Adam, but then again, he knows how to present the perfect image. A few years ago, right before Adam and Claire moved in together, he came to my apartment drunk out of his mind and blurted something that stuck with me. He said, "You know what's fucked up? Claire keeps talking about how excited she is to have kids, but I got snipped last month. She has no idea." I thought he was joking. I laughed. But then he pulled out paperwork from the clinic. He'd had a vasectomy on purpose without telling Claire, knowing she wanted kids. He said he didn't want to be trapped into being a dad, and figured by the time she started wondering why it wasn't happening, he'd come up with an excuse or convince her it wasn't in the cards. I was horrified. I begged him to tell her. He laughed it off, said, "What she doesn't know won't hurt her. Besides, people change their minds all the time." Fast forward to last month, wedding prep in full swing, Claire glowing with happiness, talking to me privately about how excited she is to try for kids right after the honeymoon. She told me she'd gone off birth control already. I smiled, nodded, and felt like I was going to throw up. I confronted Adam again. I asked him, point blank, if he ever told her. He rolled his eyes and said, "Why would I ruin everything now? Let her dream. Maybe she'll decide she's fine being the cool aunt." I told him if he didn't tell her I would. He dared me, said no one would believe me, that I'd be painted as a jealous little sister trying to sabotage his wedding. I almost dropped it. I almost convinced myself it wasn't my place, that maybe he'd change. That maybe she'd eventually find out, and it wouldn't be my fault. But I couldn't shake the image of her face telling me how excited she was to become a mum. So, the night before the wedding, I asked Claire if we could talk alone. She thought I was going to give her some sister-in-law bonding speech or a gift. Instead, I told her everything. At first, she thought I was lying. She got defensive, said Adam would never lie to her about something like that. I asked if she'd ever seen any proof that he still could have kids, any recent tests, sperm samples, etc. She went quiet. Then I told her the name of the clinic, the month, the fact that Adam had gotten the procedure while she was out of town visiting her parents 3 years ago. I saw her face change. It was like watching someone's heart shatter in real time. She left without saying a word. The next morning there was no wedding. Guests arrived to a locked venue. My parents were furious. Adam was beyond livid. He showed up at my place that night and screamed at me in the hallway like a lunatic, called me a psycho, a liar, accused me of wanting his fiancée, which made no sense. I reminded him I gave him 3 years to come clean. He said, "That wasn't your choice to make." Now Claire has gone completely no contact with him. She moved in with a friend. She texted me once, just once, to say thank you for telling her the truth. That was it. My parents have been blowing up my phone saying I humiliated the family, embarrassed them in front of everyone, and destroyed Adam's future. A few relatives have reached out to say they're proud of me for standing up for Claire. Others think I'm a drama queen who wanted to make the day about me. Adam hasn't spoken to me since the blow-up. I heard from a mutual friend that he's already spinning it like I misunderstood and fabricated it all to punish him. So here I am. Was I the a-hole for telling Claire the truth about the vasectomy and blowing up their wedding? Am I the a-hole for not attending my best friend's wedding after she tried to dictate who I could invite? I, 28F, have been friends with Sarah, 30F, for over a decade. We've been through everything together: school, breakups, life changes, and everything in between. We've always been incredibly close, and I considered her one of my best friends. We're so close, in fact, that we agreed we'd both be bridesmaids in each other's weddings one day. She's been talking about her wedding for years, and when she finally got engaged, I was beyond excited to be a part of her big day. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until about 3 months ago, when Sarah sent out her invitations for her wedding. I was initially excited to receive mine, but when I opened it, I was taken aback. There was a note included specifically addressed to me, asking that I not invite my fiancé, Matt, 31M, to the wedding. The note said, "I love you, but I really need you to understand that Matt is just not welcome at my wedding. I hope you'll respect my wishes." I was stunned. I had no idea where this was coming from. Matt and Sarah had always been friendly with each other, though admittedly they didn't hang out much. They'd been at the same parties, had casual conversations, and I never thought there was any bad blood between them. But now, out of the blue, she was telling me that Matt wasn't welcome at her wedding. I immediately called Sarah to ask why. She'd included that note. She explained that she had some personal issues with Matt. Apparently, he'd said something at a party a few months ago that rubbed her the wrong way. She didn't give me any details, but she said that the conversation had left her feeling uncomfortable and that she didn't feel she could have him at her wedding. She told me she was not trying to start drama, but that she didn't want Matt there, period. I was honestly shocked. Matt and Sarah weren't best friends, but they weren't enemies either. I couldn't understand why she would ask me to choose between him and her, especially when they had been cordial in the past. I tried to reason with her, asking if we could at least talk about it further, but she was adamant. She told me that this was her special day, and I needed to respect her wishes if I wanted to be part of it. I felt incredibly torn. On the one hand, Sarah was my best friend, and I wanted to support her. But on the other hand, I wasn't about to let someone dictate who I could bring to an event, especially when Matt was my partner. I've been with Matt for 3 years, and we've been living together for over a year. He's been by my side through thick and thin, and there's no way I could attend her wedding without him. I tried to compromise. I suggested that maybe Matt and I could skip the ceremony, but attend the reception afterward. This way, Sarah could have the ceremony the way she wanted it, and Matt wouldn't be causing any tension, but she was still insistent. She said it was all or nothing. Matt wasn't welcome at all, and if I couldn't accept that, then she'd understand if I didn't want to attend the wedding at all. At that point, I was angry. I felt like Sarah was giving me an impossible choice: choose her wedding or choose Matt. She was essentially telling me that I had to choose between my lifelong friend and my partner of 3 years. It wasn't just about respecting her wishes. It was about her imposing her personal issues on my relationship. I told her that I couldn't attend a wedding where my fiancé wasn't welcome, and I would be stepping down as her bridesmaid. Sarah got extremely upset and started calling me selfish. She said I was being dramatic and unreasonable, and that I was putting Matt before her, even though it was her special day. She also accused me of making everything about me when it should have been about her. This whole thing turned into an argument, and I ended up hanging up the phone because I couldn't keep talking in circles. Since then, things have been tense. Sarah has told other friends and family members that I backed out of being her bridesmaid, and that I didn't care about her wedding. A few mutual friends have reached out to me, asking if I'm really willing to lose my friendship with Sarah over Matt. One of them even said that Sarah isn't being unreasonable because she's allowed to have boundaries, and I should respect them. But at the same time, I've had friends on my side saying that Sarah is being way too controlling and that I shouldn't have to choose between my partner and my best friend. I've been thinking about it non-stop, and I'm starting to feel like I made a mistake. I love Sarah, but this feels like an unfair ultimatum. I understand it's her wedding, but it's also my relationship at stake here. I don't want to be the kind of person who makes drama over a wedding, but I also don't think it's fair for her to ask me to leave Matt behind. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for not attending my best friend's wedding after she tried to dictate who I could invite? Should I have just let it go and attended without Matt, or was I right to stand my ground? Am I the a-hole for calling off my engagement after my fiancé gave me an ultimatum about my best friend? I, 27F, have been with my fiancé, Brian, 29 for 2 years. We got engaged 6 months ago, and we've been planning our wedding ever since. I thought everything was going great, but recently things have taken a turn that I never saw coming. I have a best friend, Sarah, 28F, who I've known since we were in high school. She's been my rock through thick and thin. We've been through all kinds of ups and downs together, and I genuinely consider her family. Sarah is one of those people who has a very bold, no-filter personality, but she's also fiercely loyal. To say she's a bit unconventional would be an understatement. She's the kind of person who doesn't care much about what people think, and that's part of what I love about her. Now, Brian and Sarah do not get along. I'm not sure when or how it started, but for as long as I can remember, they've had some sort of tension between them. Brian thinks Sarah is too loud and inappropriate in public, and Sarah finds Brian too uptight and rigid. They just don't vibe. I've tried to explain to both of them that we're all adults, and I wish they could just get along, but I've always had to play the middle ground. I'll be the first to admit that I've had to keep the peace between them more times than I can count. The issue reached a boiling point about a month ago. Brian came to me with a serious conversation. He told me that he couldn't stand Sarah being a part of our lives anymore. He said that if I wanted to marry him, I would have to choose between him and Sarah. He said that every time Sarah was around, it caused tension, and he didn't want someone who disrespected him at our wedding or in our future family. I was completely shocked. I never imagined he would give me such an ultimatum, especially over something so trivial. I was furious. I told him that Sarah was my best friend, and I wasn't going to choose between her and him. It felt wrong to even have to entertain that thought. I reminded him that when we got engaged, we both agreed to accept each other's friends, even if we didn't get along with them all the time. I never asked him to be best friends with Sarah, but I did expect him to at least be civil. Brian wasn't having it. He said he couldn't be in a relationship with someone who allowed disrespectful people in their life. He told me that I either needed to tell Sarah to stay away or our relationship was over. He said he couldn't spend the rest of his life with someone who values their friendship with someone so toxic more than their future with him. It was like he was pushing me into a corner, and I could see no way out. I didn't know what to do. I was caught in the middle of two people I cared about deeply. On one hand, Brian was supposed to be my future, but on the other, Sarah had been there for me through everything. She was my person. How could I just throw that away? I spent the next few days thinking about it, trying to talk myself into seeing things from Brian's perspective. Maybe Sarah was too much sometimes. Maybe she did cross lines that made people uncomfortable. But at the same time, I felt like I was being asked to choose between two people who both mattered deeply to me, and that wasn't something I was willing to do. I finally reached a decision. I called off the engagement. I told Brian that I couldn't choose between him and Sarah. I told him that I couldn't marry someone who would make me choose my friends over him. I said that if that was the kind of ultimatum he was going to give me, then maybe we weren't meant to be together. Brian was absolutely devastated. He begged me to reconsider, but I stood firm. I told him that I needed to feel like I could trust him to accept my friendships without imposing ultimatums. It didn't go well. Brian left that night, and since then, I haven't heard from him. His family has been calling me non-stop, asking me what happened, why I would do this to him. They keep telling me that I'm throwing away a good relationship for someone who doesn't have my best interests at heart. Brian himself has sent a few texts, mostly trying to guilt-trip me, saying I ruined our future, and that I'll regret this decision. His words have stung, but I still feel like I did the right thing. Now my family and some of my other friends are split on this. Some say I was right to stand my ground and not let anyone dictate who I can and can't be friends with. Others say that I was being too stubborn and that I should have tried harder to find a compromise. Some think I'm making a huge mistake and that I'll regret this decision forever. As for Sarah, she's been supportive, but I can tell she feels guilty. She keeps telling me that I didn't do anything wrong, but I know she feels bad for being the reason Brian and I broke up. I don't want her to feel like that. It wasn't her fault. But I also can't help but wonder if I've made the right choice. Is it wrong to prioritize a friendship over a relationship? Should I have tried harder to find a way for Brian and Sarah to get along, or was I right to stand up for myself and my friendship? So Reddit, am I the a-hole for calling off my engagement after my fiancé gave me an ultimatum about my best friend? Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding after she lied to me about my fiancé, 22-9F, have been best friends with Jenna, 30F, for over 15 years. We've been through everything together. High school drama, college, relationships, breakups and everything in between. I've always thought of her as my sister, and she's been by my side through some of the hardest moments of my life. So when she got engaged to her long-term boyfriend Matt, 33M, I was over the moon for her. I was going to be her maid of honor, and I had already made plans for the big day months in advance. But then things took a turn, and now I'm not sure if I've done the right thing, or if I've ruined a friendship I'll never be able to fix. Here's what happened. It started innocently enough. Jenna and Matt had been planning their wedding for a while, and as her maid of honor, I was involved in all of it. Dress shopping, venue hunting, bridal showers, and all the other wedding-related tasks. There was a lot of excitement, but also a lot of stress. As the months passed, I noticed some changes in my fiancé Mark, 31M. He started getting a little distant. He'd be out late with his work friends or wouldn't be as affectionate as he usually was. At first, I thought it was just stress from work, but it kept going on for weeks. I tried talking to him about it, but he'd always brush me off or say it was nothing. Then one night I noticed something that would change everything. Mark had left his phone on the kitchen counter and I couldn't resist checking it. I know this was a huge violation of trust, but I was feeling anxious and paranoid at the time. I saw that he had received a text message from an unknown number that simply said, "I miss you. When are we meeting again? I'm thinking of you." Babe, my heart stopped. I didn't know what to think, but I immediately confronted him. He went pale when I showed him the text. At first he denied it, claiming it was some kind of misunderstanding, but the more I pressed, the more he broke down. He admitted that he'd been having an affair with someone for the past few months. I was devastated. I had trusted him with everything, and he had betrayed me in the worst possible way. But what hurt even more was that he admitted it was with someone I knew. He had been seeing Jenna. It was like my world came crashing down. I was in shock. My best friend, the person who had been by my side through everything, had been sleeping with my fiancée behind my back. The betrayal felt worse than anything I could have imagined. I confronted Jenna that night. She didn't deny it. In fact, she tried to justify it, saying that she had feelings for Mark and that their relationship had developed slowly. She even said that she didn't want to hurt me, but it just happened. I was livid. This was the woman who I had shared my life with for over a decade, and she had done this to me. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Jenna tried to apologize, but it felt hollow. How do you apologize for something like this? It wasn't just an affair, it was a betrayal of the highest order. She knew how much I loved Mark. She knew how much we had talked about our future together, and she still chose to do this. I called off our wedding immediately. Mark begged me to reconsider, but I couldn't. I couldn't look at him without feeling disgusted. I didn't want to be with a man who had hurt me so badly. But the worst part was that I couldn't even turn to Jenna for comfort. I felt like I had no one. Fast forward a few weeks, Jenna called me to say that she was still planning her wedding to Matt, but she wanted me to be there. She said she couldn't imagine getting married without me standing by her side. I told her there was no way I could do that. How could I stand by her side at her wedding after everything that happened? How could I pretend like nothing had happened and watch her marry a man who wasn't even hers to begin with? The audacity of her to even ask me to be there. It was unbelievable. But she didn't back down. She started guilt-tripping me, saying that I was ruining everything and that our friendship was worth more than what happened. She said I should forgive her because everyone makes mistakes and that I couldn't let one thing ruin everything we had. She even said that she didn't want to be the one to tear apart our friendship, but she would if it meant I couldn't let go of the past. I told her I couldn't be there. I told her that our friendship was over. I needed time to heal and that I couldn't go back to pretending everything was fine. She cried, begged, and even called me a selfish bee for not putting aside my feelings for her happiness. The wedding was this past weekend. I didn't go. I didn't even feel like I could show up as a guest. I couldn't be in the same space as her and Matt, knowing what had happened. I didn't even want to hear about it. I blocked her on everything and cut ties with most of our mutual friends because they all sided with her, telling me I was overreacting. Since then, I've gotten messages from mutual friends, family members, and even some of Mark's family, telling me I made the wrong decision. They say I'm holding on to the past and being petty. They say I should have forgiven Jenna and moved on because she's still my friend, and she was going through a rough time too. Some, even, said that I should have kept the peace for the sake of the wedding. Now I'm wondering if I made a mistake. Was I wrong for cutting Jenna out of my life? Was I being too harsh by not attending her wedding? Maybe I could have forgiven her. Maybe I was being stubborn and petty. Or maybe I was right to stand my ground and cut her off. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding after everything she did with my fiancé? Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister bring her new baby to my wedding? I, 30F, am getting married in a few months, and to say I'm stressed would be an understatement. Between planning everything and dealing with family dynamics, I've found myself questioning if I'm doing the right thing in some situations. This particular situation is about my younger sister, Emily, 26F, and it's causing a lot of tension in my family. Emily recently had a baby, Mia, who's around 8 months old now. She's been a huge part of my life growing up, but we've never really had the best relationship. We've had our issues in the past, especially since she's always been a bit of a drama queen. Growing up, she was always the center of attention in the family, and I often felt overlooked. It's not that I didn't love her, but I've always had to deal with the constant drama and manipulation that comes with her personality. I've had my fair share of arguments with her, but I've always tried to be there for her when it mattered. The problem now is that Emily is acting like the world revolves around her and her baby. Don't get me wrong, I love my niece Mia. She's adorable, and I understand that having a baby is a huge change. But Emily has been making everything about her and the baby lately, and it's starting to really get on my nerves. A few weeks ago, when I was finalizing the guest list for my wedding, Emily casually mentioned that she was planning on bringing Mia with her. She said something like, "I know you'll be okay with it since it's family," and I had to take a moment to process what she was saying. The wedding is going to be at a venue that has a strict no-kids policy. I had already discussed with my fiancé Jason, 32 May, and we both agreed that we wanted an adult-only event. We wanted to create an atmosphere where everyone could relax and have a good time, without worrying about crying babies or toddlers running around. I wasn't trying to be rude. I just wanted the day to be about celebrating our love and the commitment we were making to each other. When I told Emily that she couldn't bring Mia to the wedding, I was firm but polite. I said, "I love Mia, but the wedding is an adult-only event and I hope you understand." That's when things took a turn. Emily immediately became defensive. She started accusing me of not caring about her and the baby, and she made it seem like I was being selfish for not accommodating her. She said that I didn't understand how hard it was to be a new mum, and that I was shutting her out. I tried to explain that it wasn't about her or Mia. It was about creating the kind of wedding we envisioned. I didn't want to, deal with the logistics of having a baby at the wedding, and I didn't want it to become a distraction. Emily kept pushing back, though, telling me that it wasn't fair for her to have to find a sitter and that the baby was still too young to be left with anyone else. She even said that I was being a bridezilla for sticking to the rules. After that conversation, things got worse. Emily started posting passive-aggressive comments on social media, talking about how some people just don't understand the challenges of being a new parent, and how selfish it was that certain people don't make accommodations for families. It felt like she was trying to guilt me into changing my mind in front of our entire social circle. I didn't want to engage with her on social media, but it was clear that she was trying to manipulate the situation. It got even more dramatic when my parents called me to talk about it. They were upset that I had refused to let Emily bring Mia to the wedding. They said I was being unreasonable and that I should make an exception for family. They argued that the wedding wasn't just about Jason and me, but about bringing the family together, and that meant accepting the baby. I told them that the wedding was supposed to be about celebrating our love, not about giving in to pressure from Emily. My mum seemed to understand, but my dad was furious with me, accusing me of being too rigid and not thinking about the bigger picture. He even said that if I was willing to alienate Emily over something so small, then maybe I wasn't ready for the kind of commitment marriage requires. That comment really stung. As if that wasn't enough, Emily took it to the next level. She texted me saying that if I didn't change my mind, she wasn't sure if she could come to the wedding at all. She said she couldn't imagine attending an event where she wasn't allowed to bring her baby, and that it would be too much stress for her to find a sitter. She even implied that if she couldn't bring Mia, it would ruin her experience, and that I was asking too much. At this point, I was beyond frustrated. I felt like Emily was trying to manipulate me into letting her do whatever she wanted. I love my niece, but I wasn't going to let her guilt-trip me into changing the rules for everyone else. I told Emily that she was welcome to attend the wedding, without Mia, but if she felt that strongly about it, then I understood if she chose not to come. Since then, Emily has been ignoring me, and our relationship has been really strained. She hasn't responded to any of my messages, and I've heard from other family members that she's been telling everyone how hurt she is that I'm being so unreasonable. Our parents are still upset with me, and there's been tension at family gatherings. I feel like I'm losing a part of my family over something that I don't think is a big deal. Just a simple wedding rule that I've explained multiple times. Now, I'm really questioning whether I did the right thing. Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister bring her baby to my wedding? Should I have made an exception to keep the peace, or was I justified in sticking to my adult-only rule? Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my sister after she ruined my wedding day and then tried to blame me for it? 29F got married to my now husband, Ethan, 32M, last month. It was a long-awaited event for both of us, and we had been planning the wedding for over a year. We wanted it to be an intimate ceremony with close family and friends, and we were both beyond excited to finally make it official. Ethan and I have been together for 7 years, and we've built a solid relationship with open communication and mutual respect. Everything seemed perfect leading up to the big day, except for one thing: my sister Emma, 31F. Emma and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child of the family. She was always getting praised for her achievements, and my parents seemed to give her all the attention, while I was often overlooked. She had a tendency to be competitive, manipulative, and could be incredibly selfish when it came to her own interests. Despite this, I've always tried to maintain a relationship with her because she's my sister, and I wanted to support her. When I got engaged, I was excited to share the news with Emma, but I quickly realized that she was not as excited as I had hoped. She immediately started comparing my wedding plans to her own, which hadn't even happened yet. And she kept saying things like, "You know, this is how I imagined my wedding would be, but now I have to make mine bigger and better." It wasn't just annoying. It was like she couldn't let me have my moment. I should have paid more attention to the red flags, but I still let her be my maid of honor, thinking that she would put her competitiveness aside for my sake. That was a mistake. From the beginning of the planning process, Emma made everything about her. She insisted on picking out the bridesmaid dresses, even though I had already chosen a design I loved. She had an opinion on everything from the venue to the flowers, and every time I disagreed, she would give me the silent treatment or make passive-aggressive comments. There were multiple times when I had to put my foot down and say, "This is my wedding and I get to make the decisions." But somehow nothing I said ever seemed to be enough. She would still take over every conversation related to the wedding, trying to make it more about her than me. The day before the wedding, everything came to a head. Emma had made a huge deal about the rehearsal dinner. She had been harping on about the seating arrangements, insisting that she should sit next to our parents, while I had specifically arranged for them to sit near Ethan's family to promote blending the families. When I told her that she wasn't sitting there, she threw a fit and stormed out of the rehearsal dinner, and I was forced to deal with a crying, drama-filled sister on the night before my wedding. I tried to stay calm, but I was beyond stressed. This wasn't how I wanted to spend my last night as a single woman. I spent hours trying to calm Emma down and begging her not to ruin the day after. Eventually, she agreed to come back, but it felt like she was just waiting for the next opportunity to lash out. Fast forward to the wedding day itself. I was a nervous wreck. Everything I had worked so hard for, everything I had been so excited about, was being overshadowed by Emma's constant need for attention. I woke up to a text from her saying that she wasn't happy with the dress I had chosen for her, even though she had agreed to it months ago. She said it made her look fat and that I was trying to embarrass her on my big day. I was livid, but I didn't want to make a scene before the wedding, so I told her to wear whatever she wanted as long as she showed up on time. The ceremony itself was beautiful, but there were little disruptions here and there. Emma had been making passive-aggressive comments throughout, rolling her eyes when I said my vows, and even making loud remarks during the readings. I ignored her as much as I could, but when it came time for the reception, she did something that I will never forget. During the reception, when everyone was dancing, Emma went up to Ethan and asked him if he wanted to dance with someone more interesting instead of me. Ethan brushed her off, and I was grateful for that, but I could tell he was uncomfortable. I decided to confront Emma, so I took her aside and calmly told her that this behavior was unacceptable, that she was ruining my day, and that she needed to respect my relationship with Ethan. She got defensive and said that I was being too sensitive and that I was making everything about me when it was supposed to be about everyone having fun. After the confrontation, I decided I needed some space and went to check on some other guests, hoping Emma would cool down. But when I returned to the reception, the atmosphere had completely changed. Emma had somehow convinced several of my close friends and even some family members that I was being a bridezilla, making her feel unwelcome and controlling. Several of them approached me during the night to tell me that I was being too hard on Emma and that I should just let it go. That night, Emma made the situation even worse. At one point during the speeches, she interrupted the best man's speech to make a loud and dramatic declaration that this wedding is a joke and that I should have had a real wedding. I was horrified. The room went silent, and all eyes were on me. Ethan and I were both stunned, and I could feel the tension rising in the air. I was so embarrassed I couldn't even look at anyone. My parents didn't step in, and instead they just looked at me like I was the one in the wrong for not understanding Emma's feelings. By the end of the night, Emma had caused enough chaos that she was asked to leave the venue. I don't know how it happened, but it wasn't a pretty sight. I felt utterly humiliated and heartbroken that my sister would behave in such a way at my wedding, especially knowing how much time and effort I had put into making it special. A few days later, Emma reached out to me, but it wasn't to apologize. Instead, she sent me a message saying that I was ruining the family dynamic, and that if I didn't forgive her, it would be my fault that the family was falling apart. She accused me of trying to take over her spotlight and sabotaging her chance at being the center of attention. She then claimed that I had changed and that my marriage had gone to my head and that I had ignored my family in favor of Ethan. She said that I had been too controlling and selfish throughout the entire wedding process. I'm honestly at a loss for words. I feel like I've done everything I can to make her feel included, and she's made my wedding day feel like a nightmare. Now my parents and other family members are trying to make me reconcile with her, telling me that family is important and that I need to move on for the sake of everyone. Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my sister after she ruined my wedding day and tried to blame me for it? Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she isn't welcome at my house after she kept using my baby as leverage to get what she wanted, I, 35F, have a 1-year-old daughter, Sophie. I love being a mom, and my life completely revolves around her. Now, since becoming a mother, I've gotten a lot more protective and cautious, especially when it comes to the people I let into Sophie's life. For the most part, everyone has respected my boundaries, but there's one person who seems to have an issue with that. My sister, Lily, 32F. Lily and I have always had a somewhat rocky relationship. Growing up, she always craved attention and had a tendency to use people to get what she wanted. She was the kind of person who would throw tantrums if things didn't go her way, and it wasn't much better as adults. She's also been pretty irresponsible with her finances and decisions, often getting into sticky situations that she needs others to bail her out of. I've always been there for her, but I've had to set boundaries because it was becoming a pattern where I would be the one putting out fires while she reaped the benefits of me stepping in. When I had Sophie, I was very clear with everyone about the type of parent I wanted to be. I wasn't going to let anyone influence my decisions about her care unless they had my trust. I let family members know that they were welcome to visit, but I had certain rules. Sophie wasn't going to be passed around like a toy. I didn't want people smoking around her, and I wasn't going to tolerate anyone who wasn't supportive of my parenting choices. Lily was one of the first people to visit after Sophie was born. She seemed genuinely excited to meet her niece, but there was a noticeable tension in the air right from the start. Lily would always ask about what Sophie was eating, how much sleep she was getting, and would often offer unsolicited advice on how to raise my child. At first I brushed it off, but when Lily started to make passive-aggressive comments about how I was doing things wrong or overprotecting Sophie, I had to step in. I told her that I appreciated her concern, but I was confident in my choices as a mum, and if she had advice to offer, it should come with respect. After that, things seemed to settle for a bit. But then about 6 months ago, Lily started using Sophie as a way to manipulate me. It all started when she got into some financial trouble. She called me one day, sounding desperate, and said she was behind on rent and didn't know what to do. I could tell from her tone that she was expecting me to step in. I've bailed her out before, but I've also told her that I wasn't going to keep doing it. So, when I told her that I couldn't help her financially this time, she started making comments like, "It's okay, I guess. You know, if you're not willing to help, then I guess Sophie won't be seeing much of her aunt." I was taken aback. It was clear that she was trying to guilt me into giving her money by implying I wasn't being a good sister or aunt. I told her that I wasn't going to give in to emotional manipulation, and if she needed help, she should start looking at other options. But she kept pushing. A few weeks later, Lily asked me if I could babysit Sophie for the weekend while she went on a trip. I was already stretched thin with work and other commitments, but I agreed because I knew it would mean a lot to her. However, when I got to her house to drop Sophie off, I was greeted with a different attitude. Lily had been drinking and was clearly upset. She started going on about how much she was struggling with life, how she wasn't getting any support, and how no one cared enough to help her. I tried to be understanding and listen, but when she brought up Sophie again, saying that if I wasn't willing to help her, she'd make sure Sophie didn't see her aunt much anymore, and that I needed to do better for the family, I snapped. I told her that if she was going to use my daughter as a pawn to get what she wanted, then she wasn't welcome in my life anymore. She wasn't welcome in my house, and she wasn't welcome around Sophie unless she could. "Treat me with respect." Lily went ballistic. She accused me of being cold and heartless, and said that I was pushing her away when she needed me the most. She went on about how family is supposed to support each other, and that I wasn't living up to my role as her sister. I told her that I didn't have to enable her behavior, and that she was crossing a line by trying to manipulate me with Sophie. Since then, things have been incredibly tense. Lily hasn't reached out to me directly, but I've heard through other family members that she's been saying I'm too harsh and ungrateful. My parents have called me a few times to ask why I'm shutting Lily out, and I've explained my side, but they seem to think I'm being overly dramatic. They've told me that families should be able to lean on each other, and they're upset that I've cut Lily off. I'm really conflicted. I know I shouldn't let anyone manipulate me, especially when it involves Sophie. But at the same time, I feel like I've taken things too far. I've been told that I'm overreacting and that Lily's just going through a rough patch, but I can't help feeling like I've had enough. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she's not welcome at my house after she used my baby as leverage to get what she wanted? Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my best friend's boyfriend attend my wedding after what he did at my bridal shower? I, 27F, am getting married to my fiancé, Matt, 30ME, in a few months. We've been together for 3 years and have a strong relationship built on trust and mutual respect. Our wedding plans are coming along smoothly, and I've been really excited about the whole process. But things have gotten complicated recently, all thanks to my best friend, Cara, 28F, and her boyfriend, Tom, 32M. Cara and I have been best friends since high school. We've been through everything together. Breakups, bad jobs, college stress, family drama, you name it. She's the one person I thought I could rely on no matter what. Over the years, she's had a few boyfriends, but none of them seemed to stick, and none of them really got close to my fiancé or me. Tom, however, was different. He and Cara got together about a year ago, and they're already talking about moving in together. I was happy for her, but I wasn't entirely sure about him. Tom he's not the easiest person to get along with. He's sarcastic, often rude, and has made some uncomfortable comments around Matt and me. He tends to act like he's the funniest person in the room, and when he makes jokes, it's usually at someone else's expense. I've tried to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's important to Cara, but I can't shake the feeling that he doesn't really respect me, my relationship, or even my wedding. A few weeks ago, we had my bridal shower, which was organized by Cara and some other friends. It was supposed to be a small, intimate gathering with just the girls, but Cara insisted that Tom come along. She said that he just wanted to be there to support her, and while I wasn't thrilled about it, I agreed. It was her day too, and I figured it would be fine since it wasn't a huge event. The shower started off great. There was good food, games, and lots of laughs. But things took a turn when it came time for the gifts. I opened a beautiful set of wine glasses from one of my aunt's friends, and as I was admiring them, Tom made a comment about how, "You should be more careful with those, or you'll be drinking cheap wine out of them soon enough." The room went quiet. At first I thought it was a joke, but then I realized that Tom wasn't smiling. He was dead serious. Cara laughed nervously, trying to brush it off, but I could feel my blood boiling. It wasn't even the joke about the wine glasses. It was the insinuation that I couldn't afford nice things, or that Matt and I weren't capable of enjoying the finer things in life. Everyone else at the shower awkwardly tried to move on, but I could feel the tension in the air. Tom didn't seem to care about how his words had landed. In fact, he made several other comments throughout the evening, all of which were aimed at making me and Matt look like we weren't as sophisticated or classy as Cara and him. It felt like he was trying to create distance between us, making us out to be beneath him. At one point, Cara pulled me aside and apologized for Tom's behavior, saying that he didn't mean to offend me. But it didn't feel like an apology. It felt like an excuse. Cara kept saying, "You know how Tom is, he's just awkward." But that didn't make me feel better. I didn't want to brush it off as awkward, because it wasn't just awkward. It was rude. I wasn't the only one who felt uncomfortable. Several of the other guests were giving me side-eye throughout the rest of the evening, and one of them even asked Cara if Tom was always like this. After the shower, I was beyond upset. I felt humiliated, disrespected, and honestly, I didn't want to be around Tom again. I spoke to Matt about it, and he agreed that Tom's comments were out of line. Matt is generally a calm person, but even he was visibly irritated by the things Tom said. I called Cara to let her know how I felt, and she apologized, but she didn't seem to grasp the full extent of what had happened. She kept saying, "It's just Tom, he didn't mean anything by it," but that wasn't good enough for me. I didn't want someone who treats me like that to be anywhere near my wedding. A few days later, I had a conversation with Cara about the wedding, and I told her that I didn't feel comfortable having Tom attend. I explained that his behavior at the bridal shower made me feel disrespected, and that I didn't want him at such a special event if he couldn't treat me and Matt with kindness. Cara got defensive and said that I was being too sensitive, and that I was overreacting. She told me that I was making it about me, and that I should just get over it because she wanted him there. She even accused me of trying to control her life by dictating who she could and couldn't bring to my wedding. I stood my ground and told her that it wasn't about controlling her, it was about me feeling comfortable at my own wedding. I also told her that it wasn't just about Tom's comments at the shower, but about his overall attitude and disrespect. Cara went silent and hung up on me. Since then, things have been incredibly tense. Cara has been telling everyone that I'm being unreasonable and that I'm ruining our friendship over something small. Some of our mutual friends have reached out to me, saying that I should just let it go, but I don't think I can. I don't want someone who makes me feel small and uncomfortable to be part of one of the most important days of my life. Now Cara isn't talking to me, and I'm starting to get pressure from other people in my life to just let it go. My parents say that I should make peace with Cara and let her bring Tom, but I feel like this is my wedding, and I deserve to have it surrounded by people who genuinely respect me. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my best friend's boyfriend attend my wedding after what he did at my bridal shower? Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother out of my wedding for showing up in a t-shirt and shorts? I, 28F, am getting married to my fiancé, Ben, 30M, in a couple of weeks, and the planning has been incredibly stressful. I love Ben with all my heart, and we've been together for 5 years, but the wedding process has brought out a lot of tension in my family. One of the most difficult situations has been with my brother, Jake, 32M. Jake and I have never had the closest relationship. Growing up, he was always the rebellious one, the one who constantly got into trouble, skipped school, and did things my parents would have never approved of. He's always had a do-what-I-want mentality, and while I respect his freedom, it has caused a lot of friction between us over the years. We've had our fair share of arguments, especially after I started taking my life and career more seriously. He was still living at home in his late 20s, switching jobs every few months, and generally didn't seem to have his life together. Despite this, I always made an effort to be there for him. He's my brother, after all. Even though I often had to pick up the pieces for him, I still supported him, and when he expressed interest in coming to my wedding, I was determined to include him. I sent out the wedding invitations a few months ago, and I made sure to let Jake know how important it was to me that he was there. My wedding is going to be a more formal event, and I made sure to include the dress code information on the invite. Formal attire required. I even mentioned it multiple times in casual conversations, just to make sure there was no confusion. I didn't want anyone showing up underdressed or making a scene, especially not my own brother. The wedding day finally arrived, and the venue was beautiful. Ben and I were both so happy and excited. We'd worked hard to make everything perfect, and I wanted to enjoy every second of it. My guests started arriving, and everything was running smoothly. Then my brother Jake showed up. When I saw him walking toward the ceremony, I was in absolute shock. He was wearing a faded, wrinkled t-shirt, cargo shorts, and sneakers. I couldn't believe it. I didn't think he'd show up in a tuxedo or anything, but I at least expected him to make an effort and wear something respectable for his sister's wedding. The rest of the guests were dressed beautifully, and here he was, looking like he had just rolled out of bed and wandered into the venue. I didn't know what to do. I tried to approach him calmly, but my frustration was building. I pulled him aside and quietly asked, "Jake, what are you wearing? This is a formal event. You knew the dress code." He just shrugged and said, "It's hot and I didn't feel like dressing up for something like this. Plus, I don't think the dress code thing really matters." I told him, "It matters to me. You're my brother, and this is a big day for me. I need you to at least show some respect," he argued back, saying that he didn't feel comfortable in fancy clothes and didn't want to fake it. At that point, I was beyond frustrated. I felt like he was being deliberately disrespectful and was making my wedding about him and his comfort. I knew I couldn't let him walk into the ceremony like that, so I told him, "You need to leave. You're not attending the wedding looking like that. You either change into something more appropriate or you can go home." I expected him to apologize and go change, but instead, he got defensive. He started raising his voice, saying that I was overreacting and that he was sick of my high expectations. He told me that I was making a big deal out of nothing, and that I was always trying to control everything in the family. I could feel my anger rising. I told him again that he wasn't welcome in those clothes, and that if he refused, to respect my wishes, I would have to ask him to leave. He refused. The argument escalated quickly, with Jake accusing me of being too uptight and making my wedding into some kind of power trip. I told him that I didn't want someone like that representing my family on such an important day, and I asked him to leave. Eventually, Jake stormed off. He left the venue, and I didn't hear from him for the rest of the day. The rest of the wedding went off without a hitch, but I felt awful about what had happened with Jake. I was angry and hurt, but I didn't want to let his actions ruin the day. However, the guilt set in later, and I started wondering if I had overreacted. Jake has since been texting me, accusing me of shaming him and embarrassing him in front of everyone. He's called me a bridezilla and said that I was out of control. He even told me that I don't care about family because I kicked him out of my wedding over something so trivial. Now my parents are involved. They've both reached out saying that I went too far and that I should have let Jake be himself. They said I'm making a huge deal out of something small and that I'm the one who's causing unnecessary drama. They want me to apologize and let Jake back into the family fold. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother out of my wedding for showing up in a t-shirt and shorts, or was I right to stand my ground? Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she disrespected my family at mine? I, 29F, got married to my husband, Alex, 32M, about 6 months ago. Our wedding was a beautiful event, something we'd been planning for a long time, and I was so excited for the day to finally come. Most of the planning went smoothly, but one issue came up that I'm still struggling to deal with. My sister, Heather, 27F, and her behavior at my wedding. Heather and I have had a somewhat strained relationship for the past few years. We've never been particularly close, but we've always been cordial with each other. I've tried my best to be supportive of her, especially after she went through a tough breakup and was struggling to figure out her life. But despite that, Heather has always had a way of making everything about her. She's been known to be self-centered, and over time, I've learned to set boundaries with her, even if it means taking some distance. When it came to my wedding, I wanted to include her, of course, but I didn't want any drama. I was very clear with all my family members about my expectations for the day. I wanted everything to go smoothly, no attention-grabbing behavior, no conflicts, just a peaceful and joyous celebration. I even made sure to have conversations with people beforehand to avoid any unnecessary drama, including Heather. I explained that I expected her to be respectful of my space and my choices. From the start, Heather seemed to be less than thrilled with the way I was handling the wedding. She made a few passive-aggressive comments about my dress choices, my guest list, and even my venue. I brushed it off because I didn't want to start anything before the big day. But I could feel the tension building. When the day finally came, I was on edge, but I did my best to enjoy every moment. The ceremony was beautiful, and everything seemed to be going perfectly. But as the reception began, Heather started making a scene. At the start of the reception, she stood up to give a toast. I wasn't expecting a toast from her since I had already selected a few key people to speak, but I thought maybe she was just doing something nice for me. However, when she started talking, it quickly became clear that it was more about her than it was about me. She went on and on about how hard it was for her to let go of me getting married, how she felt like she was losing her best friend, and how she wasn't sure if she would ever be able to move on from this. She barely mentioned Alex or me as a couple, and spent most of the speech talking about her own feelings of abandonment. The room was awkwardly silent, and people were looking at each other uncomfortably. I felt my heart racing with embarrassment. It was my wedding day, and here she was, making it about herself. I tried to smile politely, but I could tell that Alex was visibly uncomfortable, and our guests were whispering. Afterward, I had a moment, alone with her, and I told her that I appreciated the sentiment, but that it wasn't the time for something so emotional. She apologized, but it didn't feel genuine, and I knew she didn't fully understand why I was upset. Later in the evening, things escalated even further. Heather got very drunk and started causing more problems. She repeatedly went up to people I barely knew and started making comments about how she was feeling abandoned and didn't know how she was going to cope with me being married. She even had the audacity to tell my aunt that she felt replaced by my relationship with Alex. At one point, she tried to argue with my best friend, saying that she was more important than my friends because we were sisters, and that my friends didn't deserve to be in the wedding party. I was furious. I had already been putting out fires all day, and now she was openly trying to create drama. I pulled her aside and asked her to leave the reception early, but she refused. She told me that no one understands her pain and that I was being a selfish bridezilla for not letting her express her feelings. I ended up having to ask my father to intervene. He spoke to Heather and convinced her to leave, but by that point the damage had been done. My wedding day, which was supposed to be about celebrating my new life with Alex, was overshadowed by Heather's attention-seeking behavior. The aftermath was even worse. Heather didn't speak to me for weeks, and when she did, it was only to tell me how I had ruined her day and hurt her feelings. She claimed that I didn't care about her, and that I was too caught up in my own world to see how much she was struggling with the transition. I tried to explain that her behavior was inappropriate, but she wasn't having it. Instead, she accused me of throwing her under the bus in front of the family. Fast forward to a few months later. Heather recently got engaged, and while I wasn't thrilled about it, I still offered my congratulations. However, when she asked me to be a part of her wedding, I had to decline. I told her that I wasn't comfortable being part of her special day after the way she treated me at mine. She was furious. She texted me accusing me of being petty and vindictive and said that I was ruining her wedding before it even started. Now here's where things get tricky. Heather recently came to me and asked if I could contribute to her wedding fund. She said she was struggling financially and that it would mean a lot to her if I helped her out. She mentioned that she's already been through a lot with the wedding planning and that my contribution would really make a difference. I was taken aback. After everything she put me through at my wedding, after how badly she disrespected me, I honestly don't know how I'm supposed to just step in and help her. I haven't responded yet because I'm unsure whether I'm being too harsh. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she disrespected my family at mine? Am I the a-hole for framing my husband and his mistress after they tried to gaslight me into a mental breakdown? I, 34F, used to think I was the kind of person who could never do anything evil. I grew up quiet, polite, dependable. I was the peacemaker in my family, the friend everyone vented to, the wife who always forgave. For years I thought that made me strong, but the truth is it just made me a target. My husband, Tyler, 38M, was the first man who made me feel seen. I met him when I was 23 and working at a tiny bookshop. He came in every week, always asking for obscure titles, always lingering too long at the register. He was charming in a nervous, professorish way. He wore glasses and corduroy jackets, smelled like old pages and cedarwood. I fell hard. When he proposed 2 years later, I said yes without a second thought. I didn't see the signs, maybe because I didn't want to. Tyler was controlling in subtle ways. He never yelled, never hit, but he chipped away at me. Comments like, "Are you sure you want to wear that?" Or, "Maybe leave the talking to." To me at this dinner, he monitored our finances for our own good, which meant I didn't have access to any accounts. I handed over my paycheck to the house fund every month. He said it was just temporary while he handled some debt restructuring. I believed him. We struggled with fertility. I miscarried twice. He was supportive but distant. Cold, even. Eventually we stopped trying. We got a dog instead. Tyler named her Midge after a character from some obscure novel I'd never read. I wanted to call her Daisy. He said that was too basic. Things started to unravel about 2 years ago. Tyler began working late, then weekends, then weeknights again. I'd find receipts for restaurants I'd never been to, hotels I'd never stayed in. When I confronted him, he said I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid, that maybe I should see someone, that maybe my miscarriages had triggered some kind of emotional instability I hadn't dealt with. He even called my best friend Katie behind my back and told her he was worried about my mental health. That's when I started doubting myself. I began journaling to track what I saw, just to keep a record. Receipts, strange charges, lipstick stains on collars. One time, a used wine glass on the nightstand when I knew I hadn't had a drop. Another time, a strand of long red hair in the sink. I have black hair, always have. He said it was probably from somewhere else. Maybe the dog? Midge has short brown fur. It all came to a head when I found a phone in his gym bag. Not his. Phone? A second one, hidden, passcode protected. I didn't even try to guess it, I just took pictures of the phone and put it back. That night, I brought it up. He stared at me, stone-faced, and said I was hallucinating, that there was no second phone, that I was frightening him, that maybe it was time to get help, and the next day, the phone was gone. The day after that, I got a text from an unknown number. "You're losing it, honey. Maybe you should take a nap." I never told him what number I saw the message from. He was gaslighting me, hard, and I was on the verge of losing my mind. But then fate handed me a weapon. One afternoon, I got a call from a woman named Claire. She worked at a bridal boutique. She said, "Hi, I'm confirming the final fitting for Melissa on Saturday. Tyler will be picking up the suit later that day, correct?" Melissa Tyler was marrying someone else. I played dumb. Got the address. Showed up that Saturday and pretended to be browsing. And I saw them. Tyler smiling like a man in love. Melissa younger than me, tall, red hair. The missing puzzle piece. They were having a second life. I wanted to scream, burn the place down. Instead, I walked out, quietly, and I started planning. I played the dumb wife for 3 more months. I acted confused, needy. Let him think his gaslighting had worked. Meanwhile, I opened a secret bank account, stashed away bits of cash. I got a burner phone, hired a private investigator with the evidence I'd already collected. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I needed to sharpen my mind. I wanted clarity. I wanted to dismantle him piece by piece. The PI confirmed it. Melissa didn't know about me. She thought Tyler was divorced. He'd created an entire fake identity. New job, new apartment, even a new name. He was marrying her under the name James Fowler. He had legal documents, forged IDs. It wasn't just betrayal. It was fraud. So, I decided to ruin him. I gathered every bit of evidence, texts, emails, PI footage, photos, timestamps. Then I mailed copies to Melissa, her parents, the boutique, the wedding planner, and the venue, all anonymously. I knew the wedding date. 2 days before the ceremony, Melissa showed up at my house. I opened the door and saw her standing there, holding the binder I'd sent. "I didn't believe it at first," she said. "But then I saw the receipts. I saw the timeline. I saw the dog." She burst into tears. I hugged her. We became unlikely allies. Turns out she'd given Tyler James $40,000 to help him get out of debt and start their new life together. I showed her how similar our stories were, how he'd done the same to me. I gave her the PI's contact info. I gave her a key piece of advice. Go nuclear. She did. She invited him to the venue for a rehearsal dinner. He showed up to a room full of people, her family, friends, vendors, holding copies of everything. Melissa confronted him with the grace of a woman scorned but not broken. He tried to bluster. Deny. She showed the ring he'd given her, same one he gave me, recycled. Someone called the police. He was arrested for fraud. Turns out some of the documents he used for his second identity were enough to raise suspicion. They searched his accounts, found more than one woman, more than 2. He was living off a pyramid of lies, bleeding money from 6 people. It exploded. My in-laws disowned him. My parents offered apologies. Katie cried when I told her, said she wished she'd believed me sooner. Melissa and I are still in touch. She's in therapy too, healing. We joke that we were sister wives, without the marriage. Tyler is awaiting trial. And I kept the house. I proved he'd used my income fraudulently. I got every dollar back. I changed my name. Midge and I moved to a quiet cottage upstate. I write now, short stories mostly. Dark ones, twisty ones. Ones where the villain doesn't win. People say I was cruel, that I should have just left, that I didn't need to destroy him, but I disagree. I didn't destroy him. He did that all by himself. I just lit the match. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for destroying my family, after my brother's little lie unraveled our entire lives? E31F come from what outsiders would probably call a picture-perfect family. We had the lake house summers, the matching pajamas at Christmas, the carefully curated social media photos that screamed, "One blessed." My parents, Dad 63M, Mum 59F, were the kind who hosted charity auctions and wine tastings. My older brother, Daniel, 34M, was the golden child, always the star athlete, the straight-A student, the one who made them proud. I was the quieter one, artistic, sensitive, a little strange, I guess. I never really felt like I fit into the family mold, but I tried. I spent most of my childhood and teen years thinking that if I just worked harder, smiled more, shrank myself small enough, they'd see me. But Daniel? Daniel was already the sun. Everything revolved around him. I left for college out of state, and never moved back. My visits were sparse, holidays, occasional family reunions. I loved them, but I also felt like a perpetual outsider in my own home. Daniel had gone on to become a pediatric oncologist, married a beautiful woman named Rachel, had 2 adorable kids. His life was a Hallmark movie. Mine was messier. I struggled with anxiety and depression throughout my 20s, dropped out of grad school, tried therapy, tried pills. Eventually I settled into a modest but satisfying life, doing freelance graphic design and living in a quiet apartment with my cat. Not exactly family brag material. Despite the distance, I maintained a surface-level closeness with my family. We had group texts, we exchanged birthday cards. I came home every Christmas, but I always felt like I was being measured against the Daniel standard TM and found lacking. Everything changed last year, and I still don't know how to feel about what I did. It started with a voicemail. A woman named Carla called me out of the blue. She said she had something she needed to tell me, something about Daniel. At first I thought it was a scam, or maybe someone trying to dig up dirt on my brother, who had recently been nominated for some local humanitarian award, but curiosity got the better of me. I called her back. What she told me unraveled everything. Carla had been Daniel's girlfriend during college. Apparently, they dated seriously for over 2 years. That part I vaguely remembered. He brought her home one Thanksgiving, but then she got pregnant. And Daniel panicked. According to Carla, Daniel begged her not to keep the baby. He said it would ruin his life, his future. She refused, so he ghosted her, completely cut contact. She ended up moving to another state, finishing her degree while raising their son alone. She never sued for child support, never made a scene. She just moved on, but the son, Jason, was now 15. He had questions. And after years of silence, Carla decided to reach out to Daniel again, but he wouldn't answer. So she tried me. I was flawed. I asked for proof, and she sent it. Photos, emails, even a paternity test Daniel had taken back then, but apparently tried to bury. I didn't know what to believe. Part of me wanted to protect him, but another part of me, a louder, angrier part, was shaking with betrayal. How could he do that? How could my perfect brother abandon a child? And why did no one else know? I sat with it for days. I didn't sleep. I kept looking at the boy's photos. He looked just like Daniel. Same eyes, same dimpled grin, same stupid cowlick in his hair. I was horrified and fascinated and furious all at once. I called Carla again, and we talked for hours. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't even demanding a relationship. She just wanted Jason to know who his father was. I confronted Daniel at our parents' house the following weekend. I waited until our mum and dad were there because I didn't trust myself not to spiral if I was alone with him. I asked if he remembered Carla. He went pale. Then I dropped the bomb. He didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he said, "It was a long time ago. She said she was on birth control. I told her I didn't want it. I wasn't ready. Then he actually said, "That's her problem, not mine." I swear I saw red. Our parents looked stunned. My mom started crying. My dad just kept shaking his head, repeating, "No, no, no." But Daniel, he was calm, almost smug. He said bringing it up now would only ruin lives, that Rachel didn't know, and telling her would destroy their marriage, that it would confuse his kids, that it would serve no purpose. I told him the only person who got to decide that was Jason. That's when things exploded. My parents begged me to stay quiet, said it wasn't my place, that I'd be punishing innocent people by stirring it up, that Daniel had made a mistake and was now a great father to his real family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They wanted to pretend it never happened. I left in tears. The next day I sent Rachel an email. I laid out everything. The paternity test, the photos, the timeline. I included my number. She didn't respond for 2 days, but when she did, it was a single sentence. "Thank you for telling me." I had no idea. What followed was chaos. Rachel took the kids and moved in with her sister. She filed for separation within a week. The story leaked to Daniel's hospital board. Somehow someone forwarded my email to HR. His Father of the Year image crumbled. He was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into conduct unbecoming. The Humanitarian Award, revoked. Half our extended family cut ties with me. My mum told me I'd shattered her soul. My dad blocked my number. Daniel sent me a single text. "I hope you're happy." Was I? I don't know. Jason knows now. Carla said he cried when he read my letter. He's still not ready to meet Daniel and might never be, but at least he has the truth. And Carla? She thanked me, said she finally felt seen, validated, heard. But my family, they treat me like a traitor, like I burned the house down. Maybe I did. Maybe some things needed to burn. But part of me wonders, was it my place? Reddit. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for destroying my husband's career? After I discovered the horrific truth about his charity work, I 33F, never thought I'd be capable of blowing up someone's life. Least of all my husband's. Least of all someone I loved. But what I discovered, what I uncovered, piece by piece, lie by lie, shattered everything I thought I knew about the man I married. I didn't just destroy his life. I ended a whole illusion. And now people are calling me the monster. So here I am, asking strangers on the internet if I went too far. My husband, Adam, 36 mem, was what everyone called a good man. He was charismatic, kind, soft-spoken but persuasive, the kind of guy who could talk a priest out of his own robe. He worked in non-profit management, helping at-risk youth mostly. He ran a small but well-funded foundation that focused on community outreach programs, mentorship, education pipelines. He gave TEDx talks. He went to city council meetings. He got interviewed on local news. I was so proud of him. We met when I was a grad student in social work. He was a guest speaker at one of my seminars. After his talk, I asked a question and he smiled like I'd impressed him. We got coffee the next day. 2 years later, we got married. He was brilliant, funny, incredibly attentive. We were that couple people described as goals. We had a quiet, childless life by choice. I had my work with trauma survivors, and Adam traveled a lot for his programs, especially this one youth mentorship retreat he ran every summer at a secluded property upstate. No phones, no distractions, he used to say, just healing, growth, and nature. The kids he worked with came from rough backgrounds, abuse, poverty, the foster system. He always came back tired but glowing. It's the only time I feel like I'm really doing something, he once told me. I supported him in everything, helped him write grant proposals, designed brochures, volunteered at fundraising galas. He made me believe we were building something together. And then I found the envelope. It was late September, and I was cleaning out the home office while he was away on one of his retreats. I wasn't snooping. I was literally just trying to declutter, maybe surprise him by organizing his chaotic desk. That's when I found it. A manila envelope tucked behind a drawer labeled Camp Ledger Personal. Curious, I opened it. Inside were records, Financial statements, yes, but also other things. Photos, notes, pages and pages of what looked like evaluations, but not written by professionals, written by him. He wrote things like, Subject 4A very responsive to guidance. Trauma bonding initiated. Receptive to physical proximity. Subject 2C requires firmer boundaries. Isolation methods showing success. Subject 5B, removed from program. Risk of disclosure. Escalating behaviors. I felt like I'd swallowed acid. I flipped through the photos. They weren't illegal on their own, just candid camp shots, but there was something wrong about them. The framing, the way they lingered on certain kids, the notations scribbled on the back. One had prime candidate written beneath it. Dropped everything and sat on the floor shaking. Something was deeply, profoundly wrong, and I didn't know what to do. I contacted a friend of mine who works in juvenile justice. I didn't tell her everything, just that I found something disturbing tied to a youth camp. She connected me with someone in law enforcement who specialized in child exploitation. I handed over the envelope anonymously. Within a week, the camp was raided. They arrested Adam on site. What they found was sickening. Surveillance equipment hidden in the cabins, journals, dozens of kids manipulated into confession sessions under the guise of therapeutic exercises, filmed without their consent. Emotional grooming, boundary violations, nothing overtly sexual, thank God, but the psychological damage, irreparable. He used his good guy persona to worm his way into their minds, creating dependence, breaking down walls under the pretense of mentorship. When the news broke, my world imploded. Everyone knew me as his wife. Our names were linked on everything. The foundation was a joint project on paper. People assumed I must have known, that I helped him, or at least enabled him, that I looked the other way. I lost my job within a week. My boss said they couldn't be associated with the scandal. My parents begged me to change my name. Friends ghosted me. The worst part? Some people defended him, claimed it was a witch hunt. He helped my son, one woman said. You're just bitter, another told me on Facebook. I received death. Threats and rape threats for ruining a good man's life. I couldn't leave my house, but I didn't stop there. I went public. I sat down for an interview and laid it all out. How I found the envelope, how I helped authorities, how this man tricked me too. I published an open letter. I leaked internal emails showing how the board of his non-profit had ignored earlier red flags, parents' concerns, missing documents, mysterious write-offs. I named every complicit person I could, every donor who looked the other way, every partner who praised his vision while ignoring the signs. The foundation collapsed. Half a dozen board members were forced to resign from other charities. 2 local politicians lost major endorsements. 1 school district cut ties and had to answer for why they sent kids to his camp in the first place. It was a chain reaction. Adam from jail called me vindictive. He wrote me a letter, his only communication since the arrest, begging me to stop, that I was destroying lives, that I didn't understand what he was really doing, that these kids needed discipline. He said I was hysterical, overreacting, letting trauma cloud your judgment. Classic gaslighting. I burned the letter. Now, a year later, he's awaiting trial. The prosecutors are building a strong case. Several victims have come forward. But there are people, loud, angry people, who still say I went too far, that I should have stayed quiet, that I should have let the law handle it privately instead of launching a campaign, that I ruined his legacy. My own in-laws disowned me. They say I set him up. My former best friend said I exploited the situation for attention. Even my therapist asked if I regretted going scorched earth, but I don't. These weren't abstract victims. They were kids. Kids he lured in with promises of safety and healing. Kids who trusted him, who looked up to him. I keep thinking, what if I hadn't found that envelope? What if I'd kept believing the illusion? So here I am. I destroyed his career. I helped dismantle an entire organization. I went nuclear on every enabler in his orbit, and I would do it again. But Reddit, you tell me, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for revealing my sister's miracle baby was actually stolen from me? I know the title sounds insane, unbelievable, like something out of a soap opera, but I swear on everything. It's true. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post here, but after what happened at my nephew's birthday party and the nuclear fallout that followed, I don't know what else to do. I need to know, did I go too far? Let me take you back. I, 31F, have a younger sister, Lila, 28F. Growing up, we were close in a surface-level kind of way, matching outfits, joint birthday parties, sharing toys and TV shows, but underneath that was something darker. Lila always had to have what I had. If I got a doll, she'd steal it and say it was hers. If I had a friend over, she'd wedge herself between us. When I made the varsity soccer team in high school, she joined too, even though she hated sports. She dated my first boyfriend after we broke up. She's that kind of person. My parents always told me to be the bigger person. She looks up to you, they'd say. Let her have her moment. So I did, for years. Fast forward to adulthood. I married my college sweetheart, Jason, now 35mm. He's sweet, patient, and funny. The kind of guy who brings you tea without asking when you're having a rough day. We'd been trying for a baby for a long time. 5 years of trying, 2 miscarriages, a stillbirth, endless tests, endless tears. We finally decided to pursue IVF, and it worked. We got the call on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. 2 viable embryos. We were over the moon. We named them in our heads. 1 boy, 1 girl. We had plans, dreams. I carried the girl. We named her Ember, and then she died. Placental abruption. I was 7.5 months pregnant. It was sudden, vicious, and there was nothing they could do. I was in the hospital for 3 days. Jason never left my side. I don't remember much except the screaming in my head, the silence, the emptiness. I wanted to die. We buried her in a white coffin no bigger than a bread box. Jason broke down during the service. My parents sat stone-faced. Lila didn't come. She texted, "I just can't handle sad stuff like that. Hope you understand. I'll light a candle." I should have known then. Months passed. I fell into a dark hole. Jason and I were barely speaking, surviving on muscle memory. We had 1 embryo left. I couldn't face another loss, so we decided to wait, to heal, or try to, and then Lila showed up at a family dinner with a bombshell. She was pregnant, she was glowing, radiant, giggling. "It's a miracle," she said. I wasn't even trying. She looked right at me when she said it, like a dare, like a knife to the chest. I excused myself and sobbed in the bathroom for 20 minutes. My mom followed me in. She said I needed to be happy for Lila. Her joy doesn't diminish your pain, she said. I wanted to scream, but I bit my tongue. As the months passed, something gnawed at me. Lila wasn't seeing anyone, no boyfriend, no partner, no casual fling. She lived alone, worked part-time at a boutique, and had never once mentioned wanting children. She'd always said kids were parasites, that she loved her freedom. And now she was pregnant, smiling like she'd won the lottery. Then came the comments. "Oh, it's so weird. I've had 0 morning sickness. I'm not even showing. That much? My doctor says it's the easiest pregnancy she's ever seen. And the kicker, I don't know why people say pregnancy is hard. It's honestly been effortless." That word triggered something in me. Effortless. Nothing about my journey had been effortless. It had been war. Blood, needles, pills, pain, and Lila just breezed in and got the prize. Something didn't sit right. Jason agreed. He didn't say much. He was still grieving, but I could tell he felt it too. One night, I went digging. Lila had a weird habit of oversharing online when she thought no one was watching. She had a second Instagram account, private, where she posted artsy selfies and cryptic captions. I used an old dummy account to get access, and that's when I saw it. A photo, black and white, moody lighting, of an embryo in a petri dish. Caption, "The best secrets are stolen. Blessed, dear new beginnings." My blood ran cold. I showed it to Jason. He stared at it for a long time, then said, "That looks like the photo our clinic sent us." He was right. Same angle, same timestamp in the corner, same embryo. I lost it. We called the clinic. They stonewalled us. Hyper, privacy, blah, blah, blah. So I did what I had to do. I faked being Lila. Called pretending I'd lost access to my patient. Portal. After 3 tries, I got a nurse who reset the password and gave me access. And there it was. Lila had used our embryo. The second one. The last one. The one Jason and I had paid for, cried over, created. She implanted it as her own. She had stolen our child. I confronted her the next day. She didn't even deny it. She smirked. "You weren't using it," she said. "You already had your chance." I slapped her. I had never hit anyone before in my life, she laughed. "You were always the fragile one," I told my parents. They said I was overreacting, that life finds a way, that maybe this is how it was meant to happen, that I should be grateful the baby exists at all. Grateful? She stole my child and they wanted me to thank her. Jason wanted to go public. Lawsuit, news outlets, everything. But I couldn't. I couldn't put my pain on display like that. So we cut them off, blocked them all. Went no contact for 2 years, until last weekend. Lila's son, my son, turned 2. My parents begged us to come. "He's asking about his aunt and uncle," they said. "Don't punish the child." Against my better judgment, we went. Just to see him, to lay eyes on the child we never got to raise. He looked just like Jason. Same eyes. Same chin, same cowlick in the front. He ran up to Jason and called him Uncle Jay. Jason knelt and hugged him, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen in years, joy and grief, twisting like ivy. Then Lila got on the mic. She made a speech about miracles and motherhood and how this little guy saved me. And then she said, "I want to thank my family for always supporting me, especially my big sister who's always been so generous. I wouldn't be a mother without her." People clapped. I saw red. When she stepped off the mic, I stepped up. Didn't plan it, it just erupted. I took the microphone. I said, "It's true, she wouldn't be a mother without me, because that child isn't hers. He's mine. The embryo she used was stolen. She impersonated me, hacked my clinic account, and implanted my biological child without permission." The room went silent. My mother screamed. Lila lunged at me. Jason blocked her. Chaos broke out. Someone pulled the mic. The party ended in screaming, tears and a broken cake on the floor. We left. Since then, my phone has been blowing up. Half the family says I ruined a child's birthday, that I'm selfish, that I'm mentally unwell. The other half says Lila should be arrested, that I should sue, that I should take the child back. But how? How do you take back something that's already been lived? How do you rip a child from the only mother he's ever known, even if she's a liar? So Reddit, tell me, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for secretly recording my brother's confession and playing it at his wedding? I'm still shaking as I type this. It's been 4 days since the wedding and my phone hasn't stopped buzzing. Some texts are in support. Most aren't. A few are downright threatening. I've been called a monster, a traitor, and a homewrecker by proxy. But the truth needed to come out, even if it destroyed everything, even if it torched a wedding, like napalm, even if I lose my entire family. So Reddit, tell me, did I go too far? I, 29F, have an older brother, Caleb, 33M. Growing up, he was the golden child, the straight-A student, the varsity athlete, the charming firstborn who could do no wrong. I, on the other hand, was the black sheep. Not because I was a rebel or a bad kid, but because I had the audacity to struggle. I had anxiety, depression, a learning disability that made math a nightmare. I needed therapy, tutors, medication. My parents resented that. Caleb didn't. He was the only one who made me feel safe. He used to sneak into my room when I had panic attacks and just sit with me in silence. He defended me from bullies. He drove me to doctor's appointments when our parents forgot. I worshipped him. Maybe that's why what happened hurt so much. 3 years ago, Caleb met Amelia, 31F. She was beautiful, smart, funny, honestly perfect for him. She was also my best friend since college. We were roommates sophomore year and became inseparable. I introduced them. It was the classic rom-com setup. I brought Caleb to a Halloween party. Amelia was dressed as Princess Leia. He was Han Solo by accident. And the rest was history. I was thrilled. Two people I loved, falling in love. I was maid of honor when he proposed. I helped her plan the wedding. I cried when we picked out her dress. I gave Caleb a pep talk when he got cold feet during the first draft of their vows. I was so damn happy for them, until I found the phone. It was a Tuesday morning. I had stopped by Caleb's apartment to drop off some wedding decorations. He was at work. I let myself in. He'd given me a key months ago. I was setting up when I knocked his phone off the kitchen counter. It fell face down and cracked. The screen lit up with a notification. See? You Thursday night last time was incredible. The name was just an initial. R. I know I shouldn't have opened it, I know that. But something in my stomach twisted. Something didn't feel right. So I swiped it open. What I found made my skin crawl. Hundreds of texts, photos, voice messages. All from R, all from a man, all graphic. I scrolled and scrolled, praying it was some kind of sick joke. But it wasn't. This had been going on for over a year. Hotel meetups, business trips, lies layered on lies. And the worst part? He talked about Amelia, mocked her, called her vanilla, said he was only marrying her for optics, said R was the one he really loved, said maybe after the wedding he'd finally cut loose and make a real life. I wanted to vomit. I left the apartment without touching anything else. I didn't tell Amelia. Not yet. I told myself, I needed proof, real proof, because Caleb could spin this. Say I faked it. Say I was bitter or jealous. He was good at that. And Amelia loved him too much to doubt him without a smoking gun. So I did something I'm not proud of. I waited until the next time we had dinner, just me and Caleb. I told him I needed to talk. I acted shaken. Told him I thought my boyfriend might be cheating on me and I needed advice. I asked him point blank how someone hides a year-long affair. He froze, laughed nervously, tried to deflect. I pushed harder. I told him I knew. He denied it. I kept pressing. Until finally, he cracked. He admitted everything. I had a small voice recorder in my purse the whole time. He said it wasn't real, just an escape. He said he never meant to hurt Amelia. He said she'd never survive the truth. He said I should keep my mouth shut and let the fantasy live. That his whole life was about image. That R was just the part of him he couldn't let people see. That he deserved to have both. That if I told anyone it would destroy our family. I didn't sleep for days. I debated playing the recording for Amelia privately. But every time I tried, I froze. She looked so happy. She kept texting me countdowns to the wedding. 18 days till I marry my best friend's brother. She was glowing, buzzing, alive. I couldn't do it. Not until the wedding day. The ceremony was beautiful. Outdoors, under a canopy of fairy lights and hanging orchids. Amelia looked like something out of a dream. Caleb looked smug, like he'd gotten away with it. And then it was time for the toasts. The best man spoke first, funny, heartfelt, then me, maid of honor. I stood up, clinking my glass. I started normal. Talked about how I met Amelia, how much I admired Caleb growing up. I talked about love, honesty, integrity. Then I took a deep breath. I debated whether to say this today, but I realized silence helps no one, so here it is. I pulled the voice recorder from my pocket and hit play. The room went dead. At first, no one understood what they were hearing. Caleb's voice filled the speakers, confessing, laughing, mocking, saying Amelia would never know, that he deserved his escape. You could hear her gasp. You could hear his mother drop her wineglass. You could hear the wedding crack like ice under a boot. Caleb lunged at me. Someone held him back. Amelia ran. Her mother followed. Chaos exploded. Guests started shouting. Someone pulled the plug on the mic. The DJ just stood there, frozen. I walked out. Calm. Like I was floating. Amelia hasn't called me back yet. Her sister says she's staying at a hotel. The wedding is obviously off. My parents are furious with me. They say I've humiliated the family, that Caleb will never recover, that I'm cruel and vindictive, that I ruined everything. Maybe I did, but Amelia deserved to know, and if I hadn't done it then, I don't know if I ever would have, so Reddit, was I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for exposing my stepmother's biggest secret at my father's funeral? 34F. Don't know if I've ever made a bigger mess in my life than I did 2 weeks ago. The fallout is still happening, the family is divided, and people who used to call me sweet girl now refer to me as vindictive or cruel. And maybe I was cruel. Maybe what I did wasn't about truth or justice, but about revenge. I've lost sleep over it. I've replayed the moment in my head 100 times. I wonder if I made things worse. But there's also a part of me that feels lighter, like something that's been festering for years finally burst open. So I'll tell the story and you can decide. My dad passed away in late March after a very long, brutal battle with early-onset Alzheimer's. He was only 61. Watching him deteriorate over the last 7 years was a special kind of hell. One that I wouldn't wish on anyone. He went from a brilliant, sarcastic, fiercely independent man to someone who couldn't remember how to button a shirt. The last 2 years, he didn't even recognize me. But I kept visiting. I read to him. I held his hand. I played old Beatles records and watched his fingers twitch like he remembered the rhythm. It hurt like hell, but I owed him that. He was a good dad to me. At least he was until he married Sheila. Sheila, 58F, was my father's second wife. They got married when I was 20 and had just moved out of the house. My mother, his first wife, had passed away from cancer when I was 16. That loss nearly broke both of us, and I think that grief is what opened the door for Sheila. She was kind at first, gentle, attentive. She met my dad at a support group for widowers and grieving families. She comforted him. She made him laugh again. Within a year, they were engaged. I tried to be happy for him, but something always felt off. Sheila was sugary sweet in public and passive-aggressive in private, the kind of woman who gives compliments with a knife in them. "You look good in that dress, really hides your thighs," or "Your mom would be so proud of how you've managed to keep some of her looks." When I visited home, she always made subtle comments about how I was taking up space or interrupting their routine. And as the years went on, she slowly erased every trace of my mother from the house. Photos, recipes, keepsakes, gone. Replaced with lavender-scented candles and decor that looked like a crate and barrel threw up in the living room. But I held my tongue. My dad loved her. He seemed happy until he wasn't. When the Alzheimer's started, Sheila changed. She got impatient, snappy. She didn't want people visiting, claimed it confused him. She told me it was too upsetting for him to be around familiar things, so she boxed up anything related to his past, including me. I started to feel like a ghost in my own father's life. Still, I visited. I brought groceries. I coordinated with his doctors. I got legal paperwork sorted. Made sure the house was paid off. Scheduled in-home care. Sheila resented every second of it. She said I was micromanaging and invading her space. I backed off again, told myself she was just overwhelmed. After all, being the spouse of someone with dementia is incredibly hard. Now, here's where the story turns. About 6 months before my dad died, I got a call from a nurse who had just been assigned to his case. She sounded hesitant. She said she'd only been there a few days, but was concerned about how often Sheila left my dad alone. I asked what she meant. She said Sheila would disappear for hours, sometimes not returning until after midnight. That she rarely cooked for him. That the caregivers weren't always scheduled and sometimes cancelled without replacements. I was livid. I confronted Sheila, and she flipped. Called me ungrateful. Said I had no idea how hard it was to care for. A man who didn't even know her name. We fought, screamed. I threatened legal action. She slammed the door in my face. That was the last conversation we had before he died. He passed quietly in his sleep. I was notified by the hospice nurse, not Sheila. When I arrived at the house, she had already started sorting through his things, deciding what to keep and what to donate. She didn't even cry, just said, "At least it's over now." The funeral was scheduled for the following week. Small service, immediate family only. And then came the moment. At the funeral, there were maybe 30 people. Old friends, cousins, a few neighbors, and Sheila's adult children from her first marriage. I sat in the front row alone. When it was time for people to speak, Sheila got up first. She gave a sanitized, distant speech about how my father brought light into her life and taught her patience. Not a single mention of my mother. Not a word about his career, his love for woodworking, or his stupid obsession with collecting bottle caps. Just some generic hallmark words, and then she sat down, and something in me snapped. I stood up, walked to the podium. I hadn't planned on speaking. I didn't even write anything, but the words came, heavy and sharp. I loved my father, I began. He was brilliant and stubborn and difficult and wonderful. He was a real person, not a saint, not a blank canvas. He loved strong coffee and building terrible furniture. He once made a bookshelf that collapsed under its own weight. He adored the Beatles and hated mushrooms. He taught me how to drive and told me terrible dad jokes. He grieved my mother every day until he couldn't remember her name, and even then he called out for her in his sleep. I paused, then looked straight at Sheila. And I think it's time people knew the truth. The last years of my father's life weren't peaceful. They were lonely. He was neglected. He was left alone by the one person he should have been able to count on. I know because I got the calls. I saw the bruises from when he tried to get himself out of bed and fell. I saw the empty fridge, the missed meds, the locked bedroom door while he cried downstairs. Murmurs. Sheila's face went white. But that's not even the worst part. You want to know the worst part? My voice cracked. Sheila was cheating on him for over a year while he was sick, while he was slipping away. She was slipping away too, into someone else's bed. I know because the nurse caught her sneaking out, because the neighbor saw a man coming by late at night, because I found the texts after he died. And you know what? I hope it was worth it. I hope whoever he is makes you happy, because you won't be getting a dime from Dad's estate. The updated will he signed before his memory completely vanished. It's airtight, and it leaves everything to me. The silence was nuclear. Sheila bolted out of the church. Her kids followed, shouting at me. One called me a jealous liar. Another told me to rot in hell. I stood there, chest heaving, heart pounding, and then I walked out too. Since then, the fallout has been intense. Half my extended family is furious with me. They say I turned a funeral into a circus, that I humiliated a grieving widow. Sheila is threatening to contest the will, though my lawyer says she doesn't have a case. The house is now mine. The accounts too. I've started donating portions to Alzheimer's research in my dad's name. I kept one of his old flannel shirts. It still smells like sawdust and coffee. But every night I ask myself, was I the a-hole? Was it wrong to blow up someone's life at a funeral? Or was it the first time anyone ever told the truth? Am I the a-hole for going no contact with my entire family after a birthday party disaster? I, 27F, went no contact with my entire family 6 months ago, and to this day, I still get mixed reactions from people I talk to about it. Some say I was justified. Others say I overreacted. I'm writing this because part of me still wonders if I really was the a-hole. Here's the whole story. My birthday was back in October. It was a big deal for me because it was my first birthday in years that I wasn't completely consumed by work or school or financial stress. I had finally landed a solid job, gotten my own place, and started therapy to work through some deeply rooted issues stemming from my childhood. I'd been through some pretty rough stuff. I was essentially the scapegoat of the family. My older sister Lisa, 29F, was the golden child. My younger brother Noah, 23M, was the baby, and I was the one who got yelled at when things went wrong. My mom is narcissistic and manipulative, and my dad is passive and avoids conflict like it's his religion. So growing up, I was often blamed for things I didn't do, forced to keep the peace, and gaslit about events that hurt me. Anyway, after months of working on myself, I decided to host a small dinner for my birthday. I invited some close friends, my boyfriend Chris, 31M, and against my better judgment, my family. I thought, maybe they've changed. Maybe things will be different now that I'm independent. I called my mom and told her I was planning a birthday dinner, and that she, Dad, Lisa, Lisa's fiancé Mark, and Noah were invited. She sounded surprisingly cheerful and said they'd all be there. Chris helped me clean and decorate the apartment. I cooked my favorite dishes, bought wine, and even splurged on a small custom cake. The night of the dinner, my friends arrived on time. Chris's parents came by with flowers and a gift, and everything was going perfectly. Then my family showed up, late. Not just late, an hour and a half late. No apology. Lisa walked in first, wearing white head to toe, holding this huge gift bag, and acting like it was her party. Noah followed, high as a kite and reeking of weed. My mum walked in criticizing the parking situation, and my dad just nodded and said nothing. They all ignored my friends, barely acknowledged Chris, and just acted like I was hosting a family reunion I was lucky to be a part of. I tried to brush it off. I sat everyone down, served dinner, and things seemed okay. That lasted 10 minutes. Lisa suddenly announced that she and Mark had eloped. They'd gone to Vegas 3 days earlier and gotten married without telling anyone. My mom squealed, cried, made a toast. My dad clapped. My brother yelled, "Hell yeah!" My guests congratulated them politely, but I sat there stunned. Not just because my sister hijacked my birthday dinner to make it about her, but because I'd always imagined being there for her wedding, as her sister, despite everything. When I found my voice, I said, "Wow, okay, congrats, I wish I'd been told, though." Lisa looked at me and said, "Don't make this about you, please. Don't make this about me." At my birthday dinner, Chris reached under the table and squeezed my hand. I let it go. I cut the cake, I thanked people for coming, and then Lisa handed me a gift bag with a smirk. I opened it and saw a Get Fit Fast guidebook, some slimming teas, and a gift card to a local gym. My weight has always been a sore spot. My family mocked me growing up, called me chubby cheeks, and told me no man would love me unless I slimmed down. I'm a size 10. Not that it matters. I've always been healthy and active, but they act like I'm a beached whale. My mom laughed and said, "We figured it'd help you finally commit to your goals." I felt my ears burning. I saw Chris's jaw clench. My friend Jordan looked horrified. I managed to say thank you, but I knew something inside me had cracked. When everyone left later that night, I broke down crying. I told Chris I felt like I was losing my mind, like I'd invited poison into my home and drank it with a smile. He told me I didn't have to keep letting them treat me like that. I nodded, but I didn't say anything. I needed time to process. 3 days later, Lisa posted all the photos from my party, cropping out everyone but herself, Mark, and my parents. The captions all made it sound like it was her wedding celebration. "So grateful for my amazing family throwing this dinner for us." My mum commented, "You deserve it, baby girl." I was nowhere in those photos, neither was Chris, not even the cake I had bought and served. I messaged Lisa and said, "Please take those down. That was my birthday dinner. I worked hard to host that." She left me on read. I called my mom. She said, "Lisa just wanted to share her happiness. Don't be petty." I said, "Mom, this was my party. She didn't even tell me she was getting married." My mom responded with, "Well, maybe she didn't think you'd be happy for her. You've always been a little jealous of Lisa." I stared at the phone in disbelief. I told her I needed space. That night, Chris and I had a long conversation. He told me I deserved better, that I didn't owe people access to me just because we share DNA. And he was right. The next morning, I texted my mom, Lisa, Noah, and my dad. I told them I was going no contact, that I'd been disrespected and humiliated enough times, that I was done pretending things were okay. My mom blew up my phone, calling me dramatic and selfish. Lisa posted a Facebook status that said, "Funny how some people can't stand other people being happy. Sad." Noah sent me a meme of a girl crying in the rain and said, "Lol, chill." My dad never replied. 6 months later, I haven't spoken to any of them. Not even when Lisa announced she was pregnant. Not even when my mom tried to rope Chris into convincing me to come home for Easter. I blocked all of them. Chris and I are stronger than ever. My therapist says I made the right decision, and I feel freer than I've ever felt in my life. But still, a tiny voice whispers, was I too harsh? Should I have just accepted that they'll never change and tried to keep some kind of peace? I mean, they're my family. Isn't that supposed to mean something? Or am I the a-hole for cutting them off over a birthday party? Am I the a-hole for ruining my brother's wedding after he used my trauma as a joke in his speech? I, 32F, ruined my brother's wedding last month. Or at least, that's what most of my extended family is claiming. I've been getting calls, messages, even letters, saying I went too far, that I should have kept my mouth shut, and that I humiliated him on his big day. But I'm still shaken by what happened, and the more I think about it, the less I believe I'm in the wrong. Let me explain everything. My younger brother, Sean, 30M, got married to his longtime girlfriend, Ashley, in April. They'd been together for about 5 years, and while I never had anything against her, we weren't close. She always struck me as a bit performative, Instagram perfect, always curating her life for attention, but I figured if Sean was happy, that's what mattered. Sean and I used to be close growing up, even though our family dynamic was always a bit complicated. Our parents were emotionally absent, borderline neglectful at times. Our dad drank too much and was quick with his temper, and our mom buried herself in denial and her soap operas. I protected Sean a lot as kids, took beatings for him, hid him in closets during our dad's rages, covered for him when he snuck out or failed tests or got caught with weed. I became more of a parent to him than our actual parents ever were. I never held it over his head. I just loved him. But after we both moved out, something shifted. He got more distant, stopped calling, only texted when he needed something, money, advice, help moving. I always gave it, no matter how inconvenient it was. I chalked it up to life. People grow up, they get busy. But over the years, it started to feel one-sided. He rarely asked how I was doing, never offered to help in return, never even visited. When I was recovering from surgery 3 years ago. I still held on, though. He was my baby brother. You don't just give up on family, right? Anyway, fast forward to this year. I was invited to be part of the wedding party, bridesmaid, not maid of honor. That was reserved for Ashley's best friend, naturally. The planning was chaotic. Ashley was one of those brides who wanted everything to be aesthetic and on brand, which basically meant curated like a Pinterest board and fake as hell. She micromanaged everything. I wasn't allowed to wear my hair down. Doesn't match the vision. Had to buy a $400 dress I hated and was told not to wear glasses in the photos. Whatever. I bit my tongue. I told myself it was one day. I could suck it up. The ceremony was at a lavish country estate. Expensive, elaborate, and dripping in fake smiles. Sean looked happy, though, and that was enough for me. I sat through the vows, the family pictures, the cocktail hour. I tried to make polite conversation with the other bridesmaids, most of whom were sorority types, who side-eyed me like I was an intruder. Dinner was served, speeches started, and that's where it all imploded. First, the maid of honor gave a sweet, slightly tearful speech about Ashley's loyalty and charm, and how their friendship survived a love triangle and 3 spring breaks. People laughed, clapped, cried. Then Sean stood up. He thanked everyone for coming, thanked his new in-laws, made a joke about Ashley's shoe addiction. It was all going well. Then he said, "And now, I want to thank someone really special. My big sister. She taught me a lot growing up. How to ride a bike, how to sneak out without getting caught, how to forge a parent's signature, and how to take a punch like a champ." Laughter. Laughter from the crowd, from our cousins, from people who didn't even know what he meant. Sean went on, smiling. "No, but seriously, she used to intercept. Our dad's wrath like a linebacker. If he had a bad day, it was like, boom! There goes Emily shielding me again. Makes sense she became a therapist, right? She's got first-hand trauma training." More laughter. Ashley giggled into her wine. "Glass." Sean raised his glass to me. "To Emily, my personal trauma sponge." I didn't move, I didn't laugh. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. It wasn't just the joke, it was the casual way he threw my childhood abuse into the spotlight for entertainment. It was the way people laughed like it was a roast. It was how Ashley beamed at him like he was the funniest man alive. I saw my uncle wipe tears of laughter from his eyes. My aunt whispered, "Classic Sean." I stood up. I didn't even realize I was doing it at first. My hands were shaking. Chris, my partner of 4 years, looked at me with concern. I walked up to the mic. I don't know what I was planning to say. I think I just needed to not sit there, but then I looked at Sean and the words came out. You think that was funny? I asked. The room went silent. You could hear a fork drop. You think it's funny that I took beatings for you, that I have permanent damage in my jaw because I shielded you from a drunk father with a rage problem? A murmur started. You think it's hilarious that I had to stitch my own arm shut when I was 12 because he threw a glass ashtray at me and Mom refused to take me to the ER because she didn't want to get him in trouble. Sean's face paled. Emily, come on. No, you come on. I was crying now, but I didn't care. I have never asked you to repay me for any of that. Never guilt-tripped you. Never told you what it cost me to keep you safe. But you stand up here and reduce it to a punchline? You make me your fucking trauma sponge mascot for laughs? Ashley stood up and grabbed Sean's arm. Maybe this isn't the time. No, it clearly was the time. It was the time to mock your therapist sister who has spent years trying to recover from a childhood of abuse. So yeah, I guess it's also the time to say this. I'm done. I'm done protecting you. I'm done pretending we have a relationship. You stopped being my brother the moment you decided my pain was good. For entertainment. Enjoy your marriage, I'm out. And I walked out. Chris followed. We drove home in silence. I was still shaking when I got in the shower and sat on the floor sobbing. The next day, my phone blew up. My mom texted, "You made a scene. You embarrassed us all." My cousin called me selfish. My aunt left a voicemail saying I ruined the most important day of Sean's life. Sean didn't reach out, not a single message. Ashley posted a photo of them kissing with the caption, "Unbothered, blessed, and drama-free." My mum called that night and said, "You've always had a flair for the dramatic." I blocked her. Chris has been supportive through all of it. My therapist says I did the right thing, but there's still a knot in my stomach. It was their wedding day. Maybe I should have just left quietly. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything at all. But the way he used my pain, real, deep pain, for a cheap laugh in front of 100 people, it felt like being betrayed all over again. So tell me, internet strangers, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for exposing my stepmother's biggest secret at my father's funeral? 34F. Don't know if I've ever made a bigger mess in my life than I did 2 weeks ago. The fallout is still happening, the family is divided, and people who used to call me sweet girl now refer to me as vindictive or cruel. And maybe I was cruel. Maybe what I did wasn't about truth or justice, but about revenge. I've lost sleep over it. I've replayed the moment in my head 100 times. I wonder if I made things worse. But there's also a part of me that feels lighter, like something that's been festering for years finally burst open. So I'll tell the story and you can decide. My dad passed away in late March after a very long, brutal battle with early-onset Alzheimer's. He was only 61. Watching him deteriorate over the last 7 years was a special kind of hell. One that I wouldn't wish on anyone. He went from a brilliant, sarcastic, fiercely independent man to someone who couldn't remember how to button a shirt. The last 2 years, he didn't even recognize me. But I kept visiting. I read to him. I held his hand. I played old Beatles records and watched his fingers twitch like he remembered the rhythm. It hurt like hell, but I owed him that. He was a good dad to me. At least he was until he married Sheila. Sheila, 58F, was my father's second wife. They got married when I was 20 and had just moved out of the house. My mother, his first wife, had passed away from cancer when I was 16. That loss nearly broke both of us, and I think that grief is what opened the door for Sheila. She was kind at first, gentle, attentive. She met my dad at a support group for widowers and grieving families. She comforted him. She made him laugh again. Within a year, they were engaged. I tried to be happy for him, but something always felt off. Sheila was sugary sweet in public and passive-aggressive in private, the kind of woman who gives compliments with a knife in them. "You look good in that dress, really hides your thighs," or "Your mom would be so proud of how you've managed to keep some of her looks." When I visited home, she always made subtle comments about how I was taking up space or interrupting their routine. And as the years went on, she slowly erased every trace of my mother from the house. Photos, recipes, keepsakes, gone. replaced with lavender-scented candles and decor that looked like a crate and barrel threw up in the living room. But I held my tongue. My dad loved her. He seemed happy until he wasn't. When the Alzheimer's started, Sheila changed. She got impatient, snappy. She didn't want people visiting, claimed it confused him. She told me it was too upsetting for him to be around familiar things, so she boxed up anything related to his past, including me. I started to feel like a ghost in my own father's life. Still, I visited. I brought groceries. I coordinated with his doctors. I got legal paperwork sorted, made sure the house was paid off, scheduled in-home care. Sheila resented every second of it. She said I was micromanaging and invading her space. I backed off again, told myself she was just overwhelmed. After all, being the spouse of someone with dementia is incredibly hard. Now, here's where the story turns. About 6 months before my dad died, I got a call from a nurse who had just been assigned to his case. She sounded hesitant. She said she'd only been there a few days but was concerned about how often Sheila left my dad alone. I asked what she meant. She said Sheila would disappear for hours, sometimes not returning until after midnight. That she rarely cooked for him. That the caregivers weren't always scheduled and sometimes cancelled without replacements. I was livid. I confronted Sheila, and she flipped. Called me ungrateful. Said I had no idea how hard it was to care for. A man who didn't even know her name. We fought, screamed. I threatened legal action. She slammed the door in my face. That was the last conversation we had before he died. He passed quietly in his sleep. I was notified by the hospice nurse, not Sheila. When I arrived at the house, she had already started sorting through his things, deciding what to keep and what to donate. She didn't even cry, just said, "At least it's over now." The funeral was scheduled for the following week. Small service, immediate family only. And then came the moment. At the funeral, there were maybe 30 people. Old friends, cousins, a few neighbors, and Sheila's adult children from her first marriage. I sat in the front row alone. When it was time for people to speak, Sheila got up first. She gave a sanitized, distant speech about how my father brought light into her life and taught her patience. Not a single mention of my mother. Not a word about his career, his love for woodworking, or his stupid obsession with collecting bottle caps. Just some generic hallmark words, and then she sat down, and something in me snapped. I stood up, walked to the podium. I hadn't planned on speaking. I didn't even write anything, but the words came, heavy and sharp. I loved my father, I began. He was brilliant and stubborn and difficult and wonderful. He was a real person, not a saint, not a blank canvas. He loved strong coffee and building terrible furniture. He once made a bookshelf that collapsed under its own weight. He adored the Beatles and hated mushrooms. He taught me how to drive and told me terrible dad jokes. He grieved my mother every day until he couldn't remember her name, and even then he called out for her in his sleep. I paused, then looked straight at Sheila. And I think it's time people knew the truth. The last years of my father's life weren't peaceful. They were lonely. He was neglected. He was left alone by the one person he should have been able to count on. I know because I got the calls. I saw the bruises from when he tried to get himself out of bed and fell. I saw the empty fridge, the missed meds, the locked bedroom door while he cried downstairs. Murmurs. Sheila's face went white. But that's not even the worst part. You want to know the worst part? My voice cracked. Sheila was cheating on him for over a year while he was sick, while he was slipping away. She was slipping away too, into someone else's bed. I know because the nurse caught her sneaking out, because the neighbor saw a man coming by late at night, because I found the texts after he died. And you know what? I hope it was worth it. I hope whoever he is makes you happy, because you won't be getting a dime from Dad's estate. The updated will he signed before his memory completely vanished. It's airtight, and it leaves everything to me. The silence was nuclear. Sheila bolted out of the church. Her kids followed, shouting at me. One called me a jealous liar. Another told me to rot in hell. I stood there, chest heaving, heart pounding, and then I walked out too. Since then, the fallout has been intense. Half my extended family is furious with me. They say I turned a funeral into a circus, that I humiliated a grieving widow. Sheila is threatening to contest the will, though my lawyer says she doesn't have a case. The house is now mine. The accounts too. I've started donating portions to Alzheimer's research in my dad's name. I kept one of his old flannel shirts. It still smells like sawdust and coffee. But every night I ask myself, was I the a-hole? Was it wrong to blow up someone's life at a funeral? Or was it the first time anyone ever told the truth? Am I the a-hole for telling my best friend that she's not ready to be a mum, even though she's already pregnant? I, 29, female, have always been close to my best friend, Hannah, 30, female. We've known each other since college, and I've always considered her like a sister. We've been through everything together, from heartaches and heartbreaks to promotions and new beginnings. We were both single for a while, but a year ago, Hannah met Ryan, 32, male, and things quickly moved forward. They got serious pretty fast, and within 8 months Hannah found out she was pregnant. Now here's where things get complicated. Ryan was thrilled when they found out, but Hannah's reaction was, well, not so much. She was surprised, but more than that, she seemed overwhelmed and unsure. I'd never seen her like this before, and I could tell she wasn't sure what to do. In the weeks following, she seemed to shut down emotionally, and every time I tried to talk to her about how she was feeling, she'd brush it off with a laugh or a, "I'm just adjusting." But I could see through the facade. I knew she was terrified. We had been out for coffee one afternoon when she finally opened up to me. She told me that she didn't feel ready to be a mom, that she didn't feel equipped to handle the responsibility. She even admitted that she was terrified of how this would affect her career and her future. At that point, she hadn't told Ryan how she felt, and I could tell she was really struggling with whether or not she should keep the baby. I did my best to be supportive. I told her it was okay to feel uncertain, and that she didn't have to figure everything out right away. But deep down, I was worried about her. As time went on, it became clear that Hannah wasn't just scared. She was avoiding the situation altogether. She never made any appointments with the doctor, never researched what she should do, and seemed to be burying herself in work. She and Ryan got into more and more arguments about the pregnancy, with him pressuring her to get excited and embrace the journey, while she was withdrawing more and more. I started to get frustrated because I knew that this wasn't healthy. Hannah was spiraling, and no one seemed to be taking it seriously. A few weeks ago, Hannah came to me in tears, telling me she wasn't sure if she could go through with the pregnancy. She said she felt overwhelmed and felt like she wasn't capable of being a mother. She talked about how unprepared she felt, and how even though she loved Ryan, she wasn't sure if she could be the kind of mom he expected her to be. I could see how badly she was struggling, and for the first time I was honestly concerned. I told her I thought she needed to seek counseling and talk to someone who could help her sort out her feelings and make an informed decision. That's when I made a huge mistake. I looked at her, and in a moment of frustration I said, "Hannah, I love you, but you're not ready to be a mum. You've never been able to handle big responsibilities without getting overwhelmed. You're always second-guessing yourself. You can't expect to just suddenly be ready for this." I didn't mean it the way it came out, but the words were out, and I immediately regretted them. I could see the shock on her face. She looked like I had slapped her, and I could tell I had just struck a nerve. She stood up, wiped her eyes, and told me she needed some space. I tried to apologize, but she was already walking out of the coffee shop. That night, I texted her repeatedly to apologize, but she didn't respond. The next day, she called and told me she couldn't talk to me right now. A week went by and I didn't hear from her. I felt awful, but I also couldn't shake the feeling that what I said was true. Hannah had always struggled with anxiety, decision-making, and major life changes, and I worried that being a mother might be too much for her. It wasn't about not being capable of loving the baby. It was about her being able to handle the responsibility, especially since she'd been avoiding it for so long. Finally, she called me and said we needed to talk. I thought she was ready to move forward, but instead she laid into me. She told me that she couldn't believe I would say something like that. She said I made her feel like a failure before she even had a chance to decide what she wanted. She said that I had completely invalidated her feelings and that by saying she wasn't ready, I was making her doubt herself even more. She said that she couldn't trust me right now and that she wasn't sure if she could continue being friends if I felt that way about her ability to be a mum. I was stunned. I didn't mean to make her feel that way. I just wanted to push her to take responsibility for her emotions and face her fears head-on. But she didn't see it that way. She saw my comment as a harsh judgment on her character, and in a way, I guess it was. Since then, I've tried to apologize again, but she's been distant. I can tell she's hurt and angry, and I'm afraid I may have permanently damaged our friendship. I still believe that Hannah needs to make a decision about the pregnancy, but I also realize now that I was wrong to tell her she wasn't ready. I should have been more supportive and patient instead of pushing her into feeling like she was incapable. So now I'm left wondering, am I the a-hole for telling my best friend that she wasn't ready to be a mom, even though she was already pregnant? Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's fiancée that he has been hiding a major secret from her? I, 27, female, have a brother, Tom, 30, who's been dating his fiancée, Lisa, 28, for about 3 years. They met while they were both in grad school, and I've always liked Lisa. She's kind, smart, and seems to genuinely care for Tom. However, there's a secret my brother's been hiding from her that I recently found out about, and now I'm at a crossroads. Here's some background. Tom and I were very close growing up. We shared a lot of our thoughts, feelings, and dreams with each other. We had each other's backs no matter what, and even though we've both gotten busy with our own lives as we got older, we still try to stay in touch regularly. A few months ago, I came across a letter while I was visiting Tom's apartment. It was a letter from a law firm, which I initially thought was just some official correspondence. But when I opened it, I realized it was a legal document related to Tom's paternity. The letter stated that Tom had fathered a child 5 years ago and had been paying child support ever since. The letter didn't go into details about the woman involved, but it mentioned that Tom was legally required to maintain support payments and that his failure to do so could result in legal action. At first, I thought there must be some mistake. Tom never mentioned anything about having a child, and we've always been close enough that I would have heard about something like this. But as I dug deeper, I discovered more evidence. There were bank statements showing regular child support payments, and I found a few old photos of Tom with a young child that seemed to be from when he was in his late 20s. I also found messages in his email about the arrangement, including one from the mother of the child asking for an increase in support. Naturally, I was shocked. I couldn't understand why Tom had kept this secret from me, and more importantly, why he hadn't told Lisa. I immediately confronted him about it, and he admitted everything. He told me that he had been in a brief relationship with a woman named Olivia during his final year of grad school, and she had gotten pregnant. Tom said that when he found out she was pregnant, they both decided to keep it quiet, and he agreed to pay child support without making it public. He mentioned that he never told Lisa about it because he was afraid it would ruin their relationship. According to him, Olivia had never wanted to be in the spotlight, and she had kept everything under wraps for the sake of privacy. I was furious. Not because I was angry at him for the child. I understand that these things happen, but because he kept it from Lisa. I asked him why he hadn't told her about this situation, especially since they were getting serious and planning to get married. He said that Lisa would never accept the fact that he had a child with another woman, and that it would likely destroy their relationship. Tom claimed that Olivia had always wanted to keep their child's life separate from his, so he respected her wishes and didn't bring it up. He even said that he hadn't wanted to burden Lisa with it. At this point, I was conflicted. I understood why Tom might have kept this secret, but at the same time, I couldn't ignore the fact that Lisa was about to marry someone who was keeping such a huge part of his life hidden from her. I told Tom that he had to tell Lisa the truth before they got married. He argued that it was better to keep things the way they were, that telling Lisa would only complicate things and potentially ruin their relationship. He begged me not to say anything to her, saying that it wasn't my place and that I'd only make things worse. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt like it was wrong for me to stay silent. Lisa deserved to know the truth, so I did something that I've been questioning ever since. I reached out to Lisa. I tried to approach the conversation gently, explaining that I had some important information that Tom had been keeping from her. I didn't go into all the details right away, but I told her that there was something about Tom's past that she needed to know before they moved forward with their wedding plans. Lisa was shocked, of course. She asked me to meet her in person, and when we did, I told her everything I had found out. I explained how Tom had fathered a child during his final year of grad school and had been paying child support for the past 5 years. I also told her about the legal letters, the photos, and the emails. I gave her everything I had discovered, including proof of the payments and the correspondence with Olivia. Lisa was devastated. She couldn't understand why Tom had kept this from her for so long, and she felt completely betrayed. She immediately confronted Tom about it, and he tried to justify his actions by saying that he didn't want to hurt her, and that he was protecting their relationship. Tom claimed that the child was part of his past, and that it didn't affect their present or future. He said that Olivia had made it clear that she didn't want their child's existence to be public knowledge, and he had respected her wishes. But Lisa didn't see it that way. She felt like Tom had lied to her and had kept such an important part of his life hidden from her. She told him that she needed time to think and that their wedding was now on hold. Tom was furious with me. He accused me of overstepping, of destroying his relationship for something that didn't even matter. He said that I had no right to get involved in his personal life and that I had ruined everything. My parents were also upset with me, saying that I should have stayed out of it and let Tom handle his own situation. They argued that I was the one who had caused the drama and that Lisa would never forgive Tom now. But I still felt like I had done the right thing. Lisa deserved to know, and I couldn't live with the idea of her marrying someone who was hiding such a big secret. Now a few weeks have passed, and Lisa is still unsure about what to do. She's been in contact with Tom, but they haven't made any decisions yet. Tom is still angry with me and our relationship is strained. My parents are upset, and some of my friends are siding with Tom, saying that I should have kept quiet. I've been feeling like a terrible person, but at the same time I can't shake the feeling that I did the right thing by telling Lisa. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for telling my brother's fiancé that he has been hiding a major secret from her? Am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's secret? After she tried to ruin my wedding, I'm a 29 female. I'm getting married in a few weeks to the love of my life, Jake, 32. Everything has been pretty smooth up until now, and I've been really excited for the big day. My family, however, has been a bit of a mess. Specifically, my sister, Rachel, 32, has been causing me a lot of stress. Let me give you some context. Rachel and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child. She was popular, athletic, and could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I, on the other hand, was the quiet, bookish one, and while I was always loved, I was never the center of attention. This dynamic was fine growing up, but as we became adults, I started feeling like Rachel used her position as the golden child to manipulate situations, especially when it came to attention or money. The tension between us started to get worse about 2 years ago when I got engaged. I have always been a bit more laid back when it comes to planning things. I'm not into extravagance, and I wanted my wedding to be simple, intimate, and focused on the people I care about. This immediately seemed to rub Rachel the wrong way. She's always been the type who wants things to be bigger, better, and more attention-grabbing. She's also made it clear on multiple occasions that she feels I'm too low-key or unambitious in comparison to her. At first, it was small things, comments about my dress, my choice of venue, even about my guest list. But things escalated after I made the decision to invite only immediate family and a few close friends to the wedding, keeping the guest list tight. Rachel didn't take kindly to this, especially since she had been asking me to invite several of her friends and colleagues. She even suggested I should let her help with the planning, which I politely declined, stating that I had it under control. This was when things started to get weird. Rachel began to pull away from me, and every time I reached out to her she would seem cold or passive-aggressive. I noticed she was posting more on social media, subtly hinting that she was unhappy with my choices. She also started telling mutual friends and family members that I was being too controlling with my wedding and how I wasn't listening to her suggestions. But that wasn't the worst part. About a month ago, I started to notice some things that didn't sit right. Rachel started acting increasingly distant, And I found out through my mum that she had been telling people, including family members, that I wasn't speaking to her and that I was being ungrateful for all the help she had supposedly offered with the wedding. But when I asked her about it, she denied everything, even going as far as to tell me that I was imagining things. The final straw came a week before the wedding, when I overheard a conversation between Rachel and my mom. Rachel was venting about how she felt betrayed by me and how I had stolen her spotlight. She said that she was the one who should be getting married, not me, and that my wedding was just another example of me taking what was rightfully hers. At first I thought she was just venting, but then she mentioned something that made my stomach drop. She had been secretly planning to sabotage my wedding. Rachel had been telling people that I was being difficult and that I had changed my wedding plans at the last minute, causing unnecessary stress for everyone involved. She was telling my relatives that I was a bridezilla and trying to make it seem like I was being impossible to work with. She was also telling some of my close friends that she was going to take control of the wedding day and make it better. This was a full-blown attack on my character and reputation. I confronted her about it. I was shaking, so hurt and angry that she would go this far. She laughed it off at first, but when I pressed her for more information, she told me that I had no idea how much she had done for me, and that she was only trying to help me have a better wedding. She said she felt like I was stealing her moment, and that the wedding wasn't about me but about what everyone wanted. When I pointed out that she was trying to sabotage my big day, she got defensive and said I was being paranoid and jealous of her success. I couldn't let this go. I felt completely betrayed. Not only had she been trying to ruin my wedding, but she was also trying to make me look like a villain in front of my own family and friends. In a fit of frustration and hurt, I made the decision to expose what she had been doing. I took screenshots of the conversations she had been having with other people about my wedding and sent them to a few key family members, people who I knew would understand how toxic Rachel had been acting. I also posted a detailed message on social media explaining my side of things, sharing the truth about what had been going on behind the scenes. I didn't name anyone specifically, but I made it clear that I was hurt and disappointed by my sister's behavior. I asked for support and explained that I had been going through a lot emotionally leading up to the wedding. The fallout was immediate and intense. My mum was furious, accusing me of airing the family's dirty laundry in public. She said I had humiliated Rachel and ruined any chance of healing the rift between us. Rachel, of course, was enraged. She posted a series of passive-aggressive messages online about how I had turned everyone against her and lied about everything. She even went so far as to tell people I was trying to steal her attention and destroy her life. Now my extended family is split down the middle. Some are siding with me, seeing Rachel's actions for what they are, while others are on her side, saying I should have handled things privately. My mom hasn't spoken to me since I confronted Rachel, and the tension in the family has only gotten worse. I feel terrible. I never wanted to expose Rachel in this way, but I was pushed to my breaking point. I feel like I had no other choice, especially after everything she tried to do to ruin the happiest day of my life. But now I'm wondering if I went too far. Should I have handled this differently? Did I overreact by exposing her secrets to everyone? So Reddit, am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's secret after she tried to ruin my wedding? Am I the a-hole for telling my best friend that her husband is cheating on her after she refused to listen to my concerns? I, 31, female, have been best friends with Kara, 32, female, since we were in high school. We've been through thick and thin together, and I always considered her like a sister. But recently things have gone from bad to worse, and I'm now questioning whether I did the right thing. I feel like I've been put in a really tough position, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong here. Kara married her husband, Ben, 33, male, 4 years ago, and they have a 2-year-old daughter together. From the outside, they appeared to have the perfect life. Ben is charming, successful, and very involved in the community. Kara is beautiful, kind-hearted, and dedicated to their family. For a while, I thought they were the perfect couple. However, over the past year or so, I started noticing some things that didn't seem right. It began with small things, Ben being a bit distant when we would hang out, spending more time on his phone during dinners or outings, and being unresponsive when I reached out to Kara for plans. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe he was just busy with work or life in general, I thought. But over time, the changes became more noticeable. Kara and Ben had started fighting more often, and she would vent to me about how he was becoming more distant and not spending enough time with her. She mentioned that he was always too tired or too busy to do anything with her, and that he would cancel plans at the last minute. I tried to be supportive. I listened, gave advice, and told her that relationships go through rough patches, and maybe they just needed some time to reconnect. But I began to notice something else that made me really uneasy. Ben would often disappear for hours at a time, claiming he was working late or attending business events. But on the rare occasions when I would run into him, he'd seem disoriented, like he'd been out drinking or doing something else entirely. It made me uncomfortable, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. The real turning point came when I accidentally found some text messages on Kara's phone. She had left her phone unlocked while I was over at her house, and out of curiosity, I glanced at it. I know this was wrong and I feel guilty for invading her privacy, but I saw something that I couldn't ignore. Messages between Kara and Ben that were concerning. The messages showed Ben talking to a woman in a way that wasn't just friendly. They were texting about secret meetups, plans to get together when Kara was out of town, and flirting. It wasn't a one-time thing either. There was a clear pattern. As I scrolled through, I found messages where Ben was reassuring this woman that he loved her and would be seeing her soon. It was heartbreaking to read. Ben was definitely cheating on Kara, and I felt like I was the only one who knew. I didn't know what to do. I was conflicted. On one hand, I didn't want to be the one to destroy Kara's world, but on the other hand, I couldn't keep this from her. After all, I've always promised to be there for her, and how could I stand by and watch her get hurt without telling her the truth? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that Kara deserved to know the truth. I wasn't going to sit back and let her stay in the dark while Ben was playing her for a fool. But I also didn't want to be the one to tell her in a way that would completely devastate her. It wasn't just about me being the messenger. It was about her mental and emotional well-being. I knew this was going to be a bombshell, and I didn't want to ruin her life over something she might not even believe at first. So I decided to tell her what I had found. I tried to be gentle, but I also made sure to be honest and clear. I said, "Kara, I've noticed some things that I can't ignore anymore. I don't know if you've seen this, but I found some texts between Ben and another woman. It looks like he's been cheating on you." Kara's face immediately went pale. She looked at me, confused, almost like she didn't believe me. "What are you talking about? Ben would never do that," she said, shaking her head. "He's my husband. He loves me." "I thought so too," I said, trying to hold back tears. "But I've seen the messages. They're explicit, and they're not just friendly chats. It's serious." She didn't say anything for a long time. I could tell she was processing it, but she didn't want to believe it. Finally, she looked at me, and there was a mixture of hurt, anger, and disbelief in her eyes. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," she said, her voice shaking. "I've always trusted you. Why would you betray me like this? Why would you spread lies about my husband?" I was floored. "What, Kara? I'm not lying. I'm trying to protect you." "No," she said firmly, tears streaming down her face. "You've always hated Ben. You've never liked him. I can't believe you'd try to ruin my marriage over some text messages that could have been taken out of context. This is so hurtful. I need you to leave." I was crushed. I had no idea how she could defend him so blindly. I tried to explain again, but she wouldn't listen. She threw me out of her house and told me never to come back. My heart was broken. This wasn't how I thought it would go at all. I thought I was helping her, but instead, I had just torn apart a friendship that I thought was unbreakable. A few weeks went by and Kara completely cut me out of her life. I tried reaching out to her several times, apologizing for how things went down, but I never got a response. Ben, on the other hand, seemed to act like nothing had changed. I couldn't get over the feeling that something was terribly wrong, and I had done the right thing, but I felt guilty for being the one to expose it all. A month after I told Kara, I found out the truth. She had confronted Ben and he admitted to the affair. But instead of being angry, she chose to forgive him. I couldn't believe it. She was willing to overlook the betrayal and move on like it never happened. In her mind, it was just a mistake and something that would never happen again. Now I'm left questioning whether I was the asshole for telling her what I knew. She cut me off completely, and even though Ben admitted the affair, I can't shake the feeling that I've ruined everything. I didn't want to hurt her, but now she's made her choice, and I'm not a part of her life anymore. So Reddit, am I the asshole for telling my best friend that her husband was cheating, even though she didn't want to hear it?